In the past couple of days, we have been getting a trickle of emails from Hunter Biden that implicate Joe Biden. And all of a sudden, I saw for the first time this idea that news organizations had to be verified. It was funny. So the New York Post puts out this story, and they're like, here's an email showing that this guy is saying, thanks for introducing me to your dad, Hunter Biden. Thanks for the opportunity to meet and spend time together. And then all of a sudden I hear from these leftists and these journalists, well, the story is not verified. And I'm like, since when do we ever wait for a news organization to get third-party verification to determine whether or not we allow it to exist? Then all of a sudden, we saw the Washington Post come out saying Rudy Giuliani is a victim of a Russian smear campaign, disinformation campaign. Then Facebook and Twitter banned the story outright. Then they put warning links on a government website. The entirety of the establishment is freaking out over these emails, and they're only getting worse. And now Rudy Giuliani is saying 10 days before the election, he's going to drop something even bigger. Proof of Joe Biden's corruption. We'll see how things play out, but I think it's fair to say the establishment in all its forms, from Wall Street donors to big tech to the mainstream media, they are in a panic over this. And I will say, though, however, the New York Post is fairly mainstream media, to be honest. So it's just weird goings on. We can see where the Democrats have their allies and where they don't. But we're going to talk all about this today. We got, of course, Ian.
Hi.
We got people here. Ian's hanging out. We got Lydia's hanging out as well.
Hello.
And then we got a rock star in the house.
We
got
do.
Phil Labonte from All That Remains.
I'm so excited.
Hello.
Yeah. So I guess I got a quick question before we get into all this stuff. Are you a Trump supporter? Are you a conservative?
I'm a libertarian with a small L. Which most libertarians are pretty quick to be like, I'm not a big L party libertarian guy.
That I understand.
Yeah, I mean,
that guy took his clothes off on stage that one time.
the party has a lot of problems. The party overall, the fact that they have some very far left libertarians in the party, and they are making space for people that really don't acknowledge property rights, which I think is fundamental. That's a big party problem, but generally I'm a libertarian. I voted for Trump in 2016 because I did not want to see Hillary Clinton win. A little side, at the time I was married and my ex-wife had security clearances and stuff like that, and had my ex-wife done what Hillary Clinton had done, they'd have thrown her in jail with, there wouldn't have been any kind of
they would have epoxied the bars.
Yeah.
There's no key. It's just, you're in there forever.
Go to jail. Go directly to jail. Do not pass go.
Weld the bars shut.
Exactly. Just like the Chinese were doing in the what's the town that the
Wuhan.
Wuhan.
Yeah.
So yeah, they would have tossed her in jail, and so I couldn't vote for someone that had broken the law like that. So this election, I'm going to be voting for Joe Jorgensen.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not the guy that thinks that one vote is going to change anything. So my voting for Jorgensen is really a conscience vote, because if I had my way, we'd have a much smaller government.
But that means you're voting for Trump. That's what I love about
maybe it does. Or if people say, oh, you're voting for Joe Jorgensen, you're voting for Trump, or you're voting for Joe Biden.
So I think I tweeted this joke. I was like, I know how to vote. I know how to functionally vote twice by only voting once.
Yeah.
And it's a vote third party, because then the Trump supporters like, you're voting for Biden, and the Biden supporters like, you're voting for Trump. Well, I guess I voted for both by voting for George Jorgensen.
All three, yeah.
Yeah.
If it works out that way, that's fine with me. But it's a personal vote for me, because the libertarian ideas are really good in my opinion. And you've seen that meme. Oh yeah, the fox. Yeah.
Yes.
This majestic looking fox, and then this weird decrepit.
Yeah.
So and
Joe,
I think that's reflective of reality.
Joe seems cool, but that tweet about anti-racism was kind of freaky.
Yeah, I think that most likely she was not aware of the context that surround those phrases. She seems like a normie. I talked to her real quick.
Listen, it was kind of weird for me to see the libertarian candidate telling people we must do anything.
Yep.
I'm like, wait.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
Must do something? I don't care if she said we must have, Twinkies from the gas station. I'd be like, we mustn't do anything. Don't tell me what to do.
I totally agree.
That was it for me. I mean, granted, I think the anti-racism stuff is just like legit racism, just with a different name.
Yeah, it's clearly racist. When Spencer retweeted Ibram Kendi the other day, You know, and
Really?
you didn't know that, Richard Spencer?
He did?
So Ibram Kendi.
Oh, yeah. He
when
said not wrong, right?
Amy Barrett, yeah. When Amy Barrett, Kendi was criticizing Amy Barrett because she adopted Haitian kids.
Yeah.
And so then Spencer just goes, "He's not wrong." Da-da-da-da, and it's
that's
like
amazing.
But you know what they like doing? They like saying, well, he's just pretending so that he can
Yeah.
hurt the Democrats. It's like, what are you talking about? The dude's been completely honest. Like he's comfortable with being called a white nationalist. I'm not convinced he's lying about what he's saying now.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people that I know that I'm friendly with that or that I'm friends with that are of the same mind. They're like, "Oh, I think it's he's lying. He's only saying that to help Trump and blah blah blah." But if Spencer is honest about his white nationalist goals, which I don't see any reason to think that he's not, he definitely didn't get out of Trump what he was hoping to get out of Trump.
He said
Trump
that.
passed no legislation that benefited the whites, so it makes sense that he would be, well, the guy that's going to support critical race theory and raise racial consciousness, hopefully among white people, is Joe Biden. So I'm going to vote for Joe Biden. And if you understand it like that, it makes sense. The guy that's going to be saying it's okay to have critical race theory all over the place and hopefully have more white people being aware that they're white and blah, blah, blah. It's in my opinion, it's a terrible thing. That's not how you base someone's value, but it makes sense if you're a racist that's like, well, who's going to go ahead and make people think about race a lot?
You know about repealing Prop 209 in California, right?
I do.
So this is, we talk about it quite a bit because it's probably one of the most shocking bits of legislation we've seen coming from the Democrats. It's Prop 16, repeal Prop 209, and it strikes the civil rights legislation from the California Constitution pertaining to public employment, contracting, and education. So if you have Donald Trump, who says it is a violation of civil rights law to tell people that certain races are better or worse. That's critical race theory. And then you have the Democrats saying we literally want to make it legal to discriminate based on race. Who do you think the racists are going to vote for? They're not going to vote for Trump. Trump's saying we have a civil rights law in this country.
Yeah.
The Democrats are like, we're actively repealing those. Well, then all of a sudden the white nationalists are like, oh, that sounds good, I guess.
Yeah, and I've had, again, conversations with people that I'm friendly with, and they either are unaware of what the implications of repealing that law are, or they just say, "Oh, I don't think that's going to happen." Or
that's what I hear.
There's a lot of dismissal. There's a lot of people that are, and I understand not everybody's extremely online. And I qualify as an extremely online person. Fair enough. But just because everyone isn't extremely online doesn't mean that that they're wrong, and brushing off something isn't a good idea.
They like to push that narrative of like the white supremacists everywhere and like the evil white supremacist militias are coming. So I've asked friends and I'll say, which do you think is more dangerous, the far left or the far right? And of course the press, the far right easily. And why is that? Because they're Nazis, they're white supremacists, all that stuff. I say, okay, so you think there's a prominent faction of like white supremacists, militant people going around, and they're ready to take power, and they're going to go to war, and they're fighting for Trump and all that stuff. And they're like, oh, you know it. So don't you think that if you repealed the law that made it illegal to discriminate based on race, these rampant white supremacist organizations will take advantage of that and then start creating white-only spaces? They're like, well, I mean, I don't know. I'm like, well, but there's a bunch of these people, right? They're everywhere. There's millions of them. Okay, so if you repeal this law, then they're going to start forming. Well, oof.
It doesn't make sense.
No justification for what they're doing.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And I've heard a lot of excuse making where they're like, well, I think you're looking too far into what it might be instead of what they're trying to do. And I was like, and? I know what they're trying to do. What they're publicly saying is they want affirmative action back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
Did affirmative action go away in
that's
California?
That's what basically, you can't discriminate based on race. You can't have affirmative action.
Okay. I didn't realize that I thought that there were still affirmative action laws in.
I don't know to what extent they do it, but what they're arguing is that the repealing of Prop 209, it's called the affirmative action bill, repeal Prop 209. Yeah. And I laugh because every activist website and every voter information database says this bill will make it legal to have affirmative action. And I'm like, you could write this bill will make it legal to have a white-only government building. It does the exact same thing, but they choose which one to highlight. Instead of giving the voters the information about what they're voting on, they cherry pick the most, the one that sounds good. You could even say this one helps the state do away with evil racism. Sure, it's an opinion, it's framing. That's what we're gonna get.
Yeah, I think it's a a bad idea. As I've heard people make the states' rights argument, which blows my mind because I'm like, you're making a states' rights argument about racism. You realize that we had a war about that, right?
Yeah.
That's what the argument that
Yep.
the South made was we have the states' right to keep people enslaved. And we fought a war and said, no, you don't.
Yeah.
And now you're making that argument again.
Well,
It
so
blows my mind.
when Joe tweeted this, she tweeted that slogan, "It's not enough to not be racist. We must actively be anti-racist." Clearly, she doesn't know what she's saying. The first thing is, libertarians shouldn't be saying what we must do, for one thing. But the scarier thing is that her willingness to repeat it without knowing what it is it's like outside of, look, if she was serious about it, the anti-racist ideology is literal racism.
Yeah.
They just put that anti in front of it. The way I try to describe it to people is that racism is a spectrum, and racism and anti-racism are the exact same thing.
Yeah.
With different goals. But the goals, I should say, with different. What's the right way to? They're the same goals, with the same belief structure, but different emotions behind them.
Almost, I think you're
That's
right.
about
Yeah.
it. The only difference is our emotions are different. It's racism where they claim they love you, but they need to discriminate against you for love, versus racism based on hate. It's
To me, it almost seems like a mom mentality where you're like, I'm doing this for your own good, so let me just help you. You need me to make this difference for you. Whereas
but it's
other racism is like, I'm going to tell you what to do.
Yeah, I get it. So, for her to tweet it out and then double down on it,
Yep.
and then the Libertarian Party doubled down on it, I saw a lot of people saying they wouldn't support the Libertarians over it because that's like freaky.
I myself made a big tweet and got into it with some people that were libertarians. Got into it with Nick Sarwark, who was the LP chair.
You're
for
not a
while.
real libertarian.
You know, I mean, that's how you know you're a real libertarian is when someone tells you you're not a real libertarian.
Yep.
You ever see the Groundskeeper Willie meme?
Yes.
Damn libertarians, they ruined libertarianism. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And you know, so I understand what you're saying. I got into it, like I said, with some of the left leaning libertarians, and with Sarwark himself, and I don't understand why the discourse around that was so dismissive about people that had a problem with it.
Yeah.
Other than, you know, when you say, hey, look, anti-racism isn't what you think it is. It's not. I describe anti-racism and racism like matter and antimatter.
Yeah,
it's
the
the
same
same
things.
thing. It's just charged differently.
Right.
Interesting.
That's
I like
that's
that.
kind of like what that's kind of what I was trying to get at.
Yeah.
It's like there's a different energy behind it, but it has the same goal, the same output, and I guess the difference between that analogy though is if you took anti-racism and racism and put it together, I guess you might actually get an explosion.
I mean, it'd be kind of good if you could take all the racists and all the anti-racists and put them together and
No.
just blow up.
That'd be awesome. I would love it.
because that's happened.
That's a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so
you
what
know.
so what do you like about Joe? What do you like about libertarians?
I like the
party,
fact that
the
so I've heard you talk about the I forget what it was called, the spectrum of caring, compassion, and how libertarians are just all liberty. I forget what the
the moral foundations.
yeah, the moral foundations, and I'm 100% on the same page with you because my entire worldview is I'm not looking for any particular result. I want people to be free, and that's the what I hold, you know, as sacred. People should be allowed to live their lives however they want, and in any way that they see fit, as long as they're not harming anyone else.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the best way to allow people to design their life in a way that they best see fit to, you know, to affect their happiness.
There's some challenges there, though. For instance, borders.
Borders, yeah.
So it's big libertarian argument.
I was very much an open borders kind of libertarian, and then COVID made me go,
Yep.
let
Hey,
me
wait a
rethink
minute. Yep,
this.
Think
yep.
of that again.
Because to be honest, the economic argument about borders to me makes sense, right? So you really shouldn't have any kind of limitations on people going places to work. And I'd had a grudging acceptance of borders because as long as there's some kind of social safety net. You can't just let anyone come into the country and sign up for your social safety net. You have to have some kind of control over that because we're already $100 trillion in unfunded liabilities and all of the economic arguments. But then when COVID hit, then I definitely was like, it's probably a good idea for a country to have control over its borders and control over who's coming in and who's coming out.
Yeah. That's the big libertarian argument I hear a lot. It's you're not a real libertarian because imaginary borders. I actually got into an argument with this very relatively well-known libertarian who started threatening me because I'm pro borders. The way I describe myself is I'm left-leaning libertarian on most things, but realism makes me more liberal because I think we need a little bit more authority, not towards authoritarianism, leading towards liberty, but a little bit. You need some kind of system in place to maintain these freedoms. Because I guess the concern is looking at it from a historical perspective, the places that were just open and free to move about, you get taken advantage of by either manipulative forces or physical forces. So, but anyway, specifically onto the Libertarian Party though, is there anything Jo Jorgensen in terms of her policies that?
There's nothing specific about Jo herself. It's the Libertarian Party platform is pretty good. A libertarian executive who's not looking to be, because I'm on the same page as you are about foreign interventionism and ending wars and stuff like that. That to me is a very big deal. I'm a very pro 2A kind of guy, so gun rights and stuff like that. I would love to see the ATF abolished. I would love to see a whole lot of government agencies abolished.
The police?
No, not the police. FBI maybe. Or shrink the FBI.
That's where I'm torn, especially because seeing we have a lot of problem with the FBI, to sort of set people up. It's not entrapment, but you send in a guy who then starts nudging them. Come on, do it, and they're like, okay, fine, haha, you're under arrest. It's kind of okay, you're justifying your existence.
Yeah, that's what happened to Randy Weaver at the Ruby Ridge thing. Is they were trying to get him to. We got you on your shotgun was too short or whatever, and if you go and get involved with these guys, then we'll go ahead and look the other way, and it just went to crap.
Considering what they've been doing with, so now actually let's jump into the Hunter Biden stuff because so I don't know if you've been following up to date on all of this because we're getting this slow release of Hunter Biden information, Joe Biden information, but the story is this computer repair guy gets a laptop, and after a couple months, dude never shows back up. The laptop had Beau Biden Foundation sticker on it or something. He opens it up because now it's legally his property. It's been abandoned, and he finds a bunch of emails. Apparently, he copied the hard drive and then gave it to the FBI, but then heard nothing back. And so then he started getting worried, thinking he was going to get killed and stuff like that. So then he gave it to Rudy Giuliani's lawyer, I don't know, I'm going to give it to you. So now there's serious questions about what did the FBI know? Because apparently they received this in December of 2019 when the impeachment inquiries were going on, which led into the impeachment hearing. And this was all based on Donald Trump's phone call with, I think was the president or prime minister of Ukraine or something like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, it was Ukraine, but it was
perfect phone call.
The perfect phone call.
Indeed.
So he said, people are talking about this video. There was a viral video where Joe Biden was laughing about how he ousted this prosecutor. Yeah. And he's like, son of a bee, gets fired. Haha, $1 billion.
Everyone laughs.
Everyone laughs. So Trump has his phone call, probably saw some viral video on the internet, didn't know much about it, and passively was like, yeah, I don't know if you know anything about this thing with Biden I saw. And it was really kind of, but they launched this big impeachment thing over it, which failed. The FBI had this hard drive. They had these emails. In these emails, we've now learned so far in only, I think, 3 or 4 days, that one of the executives for this company that Trump was asking questions about thanked Hunter Biden for introducing him, giving him the opportunity to meet his dad and spend time with him. Whatever that means, you can interpret. The media's trying to claim it didn't mean he actually met him. That's just kind of weird.
I think spend time with him is pretty.
I know.
I think so, yeah.
But maybe it meant Hunter Biden and not Joe. But I'm not buying it. It's just colloquially. So anyway, look, we now have Tucker Carlson last night did a segment where he said about 1 month before Joe Biden went and got this prosecutor fired, there were communications from this company about needing to get U.S. officials to intervene on their behalf. And then it was only a few days before, I guess this PR company was on a phone call with the White House or something, a conference call, And then all of a sudden, Joe Biden flies out there, fire this guy or you don't get the money.
Yep.
Guy gets fired. The guy who got fired, Victor Shokin, said he signed a sworn affidavit that he was going to investigate the executives of Burisma and the founder of Burisma for corruption and various things. But then Joe Biden got him fired. So if that information, if those emails were in the possession of the FBI at a time when Trump was being accused of trying to smear Joe Biden, what was the FBI doing? You know?
I mean, I can't even
You're
guess.
not psychic.
You know? But I mean, I do think that so people say the deep state, and I think that when you use a term like deep state, it's such a charged term that it's unhelpful. But there is an entrenched bureaucracy of people that work for the government that are unelected, that have no desire to get fired. They don't want to see their job go away. They're regular people doing what to them is fairly mundane work, but they don't want their, like I said, I would get rid of the ATF. Well, people that work at the ATF, they don't want to get rid of the ATF.
Right.
My mom used to work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife in Massachusetts. And I told her and her friends right in front of them, I'm just like, I would get rid of this whole building. Y'all are fired. And they were appalled. And my mom was just like, whatever, because she knows my opinion. But they were appalled that I would say that. And I understand because, if you've got a job and you've got your livelihood tied up with the government, it makes sense. But at the same time, these people that work for the government have their own interests. And so to think that they wouldn't try to preserve their own jobs and preserve their power or whatever, I think that's a little foolish. And to just say, it's deep state and so it's all just crazy conspiracy theory. No, it's not. It's realistic to say people that have jobs and families and pensions and all the things that go along with a job, they want to keep those things. That makes perfect sense.
For sure. But there's ideology in there.
Sure, yeah.
Like I think if these people at the FBI, like Strzok, Lisa Page, the Russiagate people, they hated Trump.
Yeah, and you're right. I agree with you about ideology, and I think that Donald Trump is just rubbing salt in the wound. And I honestly, I think if Barack Obama didn't make fun of Donald Trump at that dinner, he probably wouldn't have, run. If Barack Obama didn't get on late night TV and clown on Donald Trump probably wouldn't have won. So you want to complain about something, complain about Barack Obama doing the mic drop.
Seriously.
That's why you got Donald Trump, because you clowned him and made a fool of him.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, a lot of people have said Trump wants to be loved, so he's looking for compromise to get the most amount of love possible. And that's I hear this a lot when people talk about the bump stock ban, that he had these gun control advocates and they were being nice to him, so he was absolutely like, thank you. Oh yeah, well definitely. Like, you be nice to the guy, and the guy he wants you to love him.
Yeah, I agree totally.
Yeah. So we end up with, we have an FBI that has some agents. Now one of their lawyers actually got charged. So you heard about this, right?
Didn't they take out a bunch of insurance policies too?
Yes.
I heard about
that.
Yes,
FBI agents were taking out liability insurance because they knew if anyone found out about what they were doing to Trump, they were going to get in trouble.
Yeah.
That's nuts to me.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
The fact that they took out the insurance policies and there isn't a ton of journalists trying to snoop around and come up with information about why they were, what were you thinking, and et cetera, is proof that the media doesn't have very much interest in actually upsetting the apple cart,
It's not enough for them to not be journalists. They must actively be anti-journalism.
Yes, that's how it works.
That's
kind of the truth.
That's how I see it, because when the Proud Boys got name dropped by Joe Biden, what did all these journalists tweet out?
Yeah.
Don't interview the Proud Boys. Don't talk about them. All of that. It was just like one person tweeted it and then someone would quote it and created this chain of all the journalists being like, we vow not to actually explore who these people are, which is insane because a presidential candidate name dropped them and one of them said stand back and stand by.
It's incredible.
Kind of important to figure out who he's telling to stand by.
You would think so, but as long as the general tone that your normies are going to have about, or the attitude that normies have generally about the Proud Boys, is that they're the bad guys. They don't want to touch it. They don't want anyone to dive in and find out that the Proud Boys have, black members and the Cuban American
They don't want people
dude that's
to
in
know.
charge. Yeah, they don't want people
It's
to
a
know the
joke.
truth. Yeah.
It started as like a ridiculous joke based
Name
on an
the
Aladdin
cereals.
song.
Yep.
Name the cereals.
Yeah.
The naming the cereal things was based off of when someone farts. They can punch you until you name 5 cereals.
Of course.
Oh, that's what it. And
Did
then
you-
it turned into getting. That's how you got in. Okay.
So,
Oh my gosh.
you ever play the game Doorknobs?
No.
So we used to do this in Chicago. If someone farted,
Yep.
you have to yell
touch the doorknob.
safety.
Okay.
So you know that fart's coming on. You fart go safety. But if you don't, someone yells doorknobs. They start punching you until you touch a doorknob. That's the Chicago
great.
version. For
Okay.
Gavin, it was name 5 breakfast cereals, and
Okay.
they'd stop punching you.
And you-
And so it was clearly all a really dumb joke.
Yeah.
That got taken way too far.
Yeah.
But still, I always say, like, if these guys were, when they announced they're doing a rally, if nobody shows up, you know what happens?
Nothing happens.
They wander around, they sing the national anthem, they get drunk, and they go home.
Yeah.
They go to a bar and they drink. That's it. Nothing happens.
Yep.
It's just like frat bros going around and chest bumping each other and stuff. Antifa shows up, however. So I'm not going to rehash all that stuff, but the point is, the news organizations didn't want anyone to realize they're not a white supremacist group. Like you can criticize them for a lot of things. We had Enrique on the show, and we had a bit of back and forth on some issues, but right now, the media had at that time, I should say, the media had an opportunity because Donald Trump said stand back, stand by. They wanted it to be white supremacy.
Yeah.
But if they actually interviewed Enrique Tarrio, who's not white, then that would have been bad because it would have broken the narrative.
Ruined it.
So then, what did we see with that town hall last night with Savannah Guthrie? She again asks Trump, "Will you denounce white supremacy?" And Trump's like, you know what? They told me backstage you were going to ask me this. You ask every single time. And she was like, "Aren't you you're a little hesitant?" He's like, "No, I'm not. I denounce white supremacy."
Yeah. I've heard Donald Trump say that I denounce white supremacy more times than I've heard any other human being say I denounce white supremacy.
Yeah.
I have literally, out of all the people that I've ever interacted with in my entire 45 years, I've heard Donald Trump say I denounce white supremacy more than anyone. And he's still asked, denounce white supremacy.
So here's the bigger picture in all this, because we jumped from like the Bidens and out to the media. It's the entirety of the establishment.
It is. Yeah.
Big tech, Twitter, Facebook. This is something, Ian, you probably know a bit about, especially when it comes to because you moderated for Minds.
Yeah.
So you've got Twitter and Facebook. Story comes out. They nuked the story completely. The crazy thing was, before anything happened, Facebook, this guy, Andy Stone, who worked for the Democrats, said we're reducing its visibility or whatever, or its reach or something.
Yeah.
Why are these individuals censoring a story that made Joe Biden look bad?
Yeah.
And their excuses kept changing. For Facebook, it was, it's unverified.
Yeah.
For Twitter, they said because they didn't publish where the origins were, it's possibly hacked. So they shut it down. Then it was, no, they revealed private information. Now they're like, okay, it's fine now.
It was ridiculous. It was all ridiculous, just garbage to try to, cover up the story or limit its reach. And the thing that surprises me the most is people just kind of bought that and we're like, yeah, okay, okay.
This is the
And I'm
thing.
just like,
When
that's the story. Like
when-
the Biden stuff isn't as big of a story as the cover up. And now you've got aren't they going to be going? Doesn't Jack have to go to Capitol Hill?
So far, it's
Is
an
that gonna-
invite, I think.
It's an invite. Right?
Yeah, and they
Oh.
always ignore this stuff. That's why I'm like, so I think Josh Hawley tries.
Mm-hmm.
He really tries to get to the bottom of the censorship and the manipulation and stuff, but he doesn't have the power.
Yeah.
We're not a country of despots, as much as the left wants to claim Trump and the Republicans are fascists. They can't do much.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
So these companies keep getting away with it.
Yeah.
So I made a post about this. I'm like, when Twitter blocked the House website, house.gov.
Yeah.
That was wow. I was like, welcome to Black Mirror, baby. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna be serious about this anymore. When the story first came out, I was like, this is it. Or when they censored the New York Post, I'm like, they are actively now cheating to help the Democrats win. There's no question, because when Trump's tax information was released by the New York Times, Trump denied it.
Yeah.
That means the information was not verified. In fact, it was refuted, and no one cared. When the leaked Melania tapes came out, no one cared. This information, whoa, gotta shut it down. And what do I hear from my lefty friends? but the story's not verified.
Yeah.
When have you ever asked me to verify any of these stories? Never.
Yep.
I can put out a story where it's like Donald Trump smacked a kid in the face, and you're gonna be like, "Wow."
I believe it.
Then
The
you put out-
Orange Man is so bad.
Yeah,
Can you
man.
believe he smacked
I
a
can.
kid?
I totally can.
What is it about this? Like, I'm not even sure. I'm not even convinced it's an actual establishment of people, as much as it is some kind of weird mind frame where you have a bunch of people that can only point in a certain direction. So basically, I'll put it this way: if the news comes out saying Trump is bad, it's immediately accepted as true.
Yep.
Demi Lovato is like, I'm going to criticize the president even if it hurts my
Yeah.
career. It's like,
it's gonna
oh,
hurt your
please.
career. Come on.
Yeah, like then Taylor Swift come out with a song or something.
I love
Anyway.
Taylor Swift. I love her to death. And
does,
as
yeah.
much as I disagree with her on politics, I will still consume whatever Taylor Swift puts out.
Didn't you see that?
With no shame.
No question.
Did you
No
see-
shame.
You know
Love it.
what's that song where it's like, what's it called? You're talking too loud. You
need
better
to calm down.
You need to
Yeah,
calm
you
down.
need to calm down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the music video she put out was a caricature of of like hillbilly Republicans in the early '90s or something.
Yep.
Moran sign and like being anti-LGBT or whatever. And I'm like, Trump was pro gay marriage before he became president.
Yeah.
Like, what year are you looking from? So they got some old guy who's producing the music video. Anyway, here's what I want to get to this question.
Still love Taylor.
That's right.
It's great.
love you.
If you make a story, Donald Trump is bad. Donald Trump throws a bag of puppies over a bridge. People are gonna be like, oh no. You do a story. Donald Trump runs into burning building to save box of puppies. Prove it. That's not true. That's unverified. I don't believe it.
The fire wasn't even that hot, Tim.
Yeah, come on,
It was
man.
barely hot. So
Well, the joke I made before is that they'll find a way to make it negative.
Yeah.
Like Donald Trump, he is the president of the United States, should not be risking his life and this country for puppies. We all love puppies, but it was irresponsible. They'll find some way to make it
Yeah.
bad.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, the point is, I've talked about it before with COVID. If the story about COVID is that it's the end of the world, you're totally fine. If the story about COVID is that there's hope, they ban you, they shut you down. So it's like whatever this establishment is, they can only say one thing that aligns with their acceptable narrative. I wonder if there's not really an establishment of corrupt people who are, wealthy and in power, as much as it is a bunch of people pointing guns at each other, scared. Like the idea being, if I actually admit how I feel, I'll get canceled. So I better join the mob and cancel them so no one finds out.
Yep.
But in reality, everybody secretly agrees they hate what's going on, but they've trapped themselves.
I think that you're probably right. There's a lot of people that are afraid of the repercussions of standing up and saying, no, I don't think that I agree with that. And like I said, I'm not like a pro-Trump guy. You're not going to find MAGA 2020 or whatever on anything that I put out. I'll criticize Trump without hesitation if he does something stupid. The other day when he put up the Joe Biden meme where Joe Biden was in an old age home.
You're already laughing.
I did. I laughed. I can't.
I know, it's
I
hilarious.
think the guy's a clown. Like
Biden-
Trump is hilarious. He's a clown.
Wait. It was Biden for residents.
Yes,
the
I love
P
that
was
so
X'd out,
much.
and it was Joe in a nursing home. Man.
I think it's funny that Trump does that stuff. I mean, Trump is a S poster, and I think it's great. I think it's hilarious. I know that it makes people mad, and they'll get over it. But it's dumb, and that's what it
Yeah.
is. And it's probably not a good idea for the president to be doing it, aside
Exactly.
from the fact that people like me laugh about it. But it's probably not a good idea. So I criticize him for that. Trump shouldn't be doing this. This is dumb or whatever. But because I don't hate Donald Trump enough, and because I'm like, well, I'm critical when he deserves it. I'm probably like Ben Shapiro in the fact that Shapiro has the good Trump, bad Trump thing that he does. So I have no problem being like Trump's a bad, Trump did this wrong, or I don't agree with that. But it's people that stand up and stick their head up. Those people will get their
Yeah.
head chopped off. So I think you're right.
I think there are a lot of people who are secretly pro-Trump pretending to be an SJW. Like they'll tweet saying like, "Oh, Trump is bad," and then they're deep down like, "I'm gonna go vote for Trump because I can't live this way anymore." They're scared of getting canceled. We had that Cato Institute poll. 62% of people are scared to speak their minds. There's strong liberal, center, conservative, strong conservative. The only one of those that felt comfortable expressing their opinions was strong liberal.
Strong liberal.
Far left.
I mean, I like liberalism. I like free people. I like liberty. I don't like communism. I don't, you know, and like
Strong liberal.
strong liberal is fine, but I
but-
draw the line at like American left versus international left. American left, cool. I
But
get
this
it.
is the crazy thing. When Cato says strong liberal, you know they don't mean liberal in any way.
Do you think they mean communist?
They mean far left, progressive. Because, like, that's just how they worded it. I mean, I don't,
Collectivist.
yeah, more. It's so weird how liberal came to mean collectivist in many ways.
In the U.S. context, yes, but that's
Right.
why I mentioned internationally. When you start to really kind of read about political philosophies, you know as well as anyone else that, like, you know, and I mentioned property rights early. Property rights are foundational to the U.S. You know, to the U.S. Mindset, I guess. And I think that the fact that people on the very far left don't acknowledge that you should have property rights, that's where the biggest problem for me comes up. You know, I can get into, okay, I understand why people would want to have progressive taxation, or I understand why people would want to have you know, safety nets. I understand why people would want to have some kind of universal health care, even though I don't think that it's a good idea. I understand why. I don't understand why people want to say you cannot own your home or a business or any kind of property that you can create things with.
It's simple. I've noticed something, at least anecdotally, because I've covered a bunch of, you know, a lot of these civil unrest stories around the world, starting with the U.S., Occupy, moving to other countries. The protests in Venezuela when I were there was the rich people that were protesting.
Really?
Yeah, because the government was taking their stuff away from them and impoverishing them, and so they got mad. In other countries, it's the poor that's protesting. So it tends to be, in like Venezuela, where they were enacting all this socialist policy, it was the middle to upper class that were angry and coming out in the streets and, you know, protesting about it. But it's really simple as to why they don't want you to have property, because they don't have any. It's that simple. So they're not losing anything.
That's such an ugly way to I guess exist in society.
Let's play some communist scenario games, because I was tweeting once, and the Socialist Workers' Party of Great Britain or whatever.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
That's one of the most clowned on Twitter
Oh,
accounts
dude.
Seriously.
out there.
I love it.
Good for them for really believing it though, because they keep coming back for more, man.
That's amazing.
So good on them.
It's got to be a parody account now. Where I can't believe. So listen. I tweeted something like, we had a long exchange where the gist of it was, if we were in a socialist system, how do you draw the distinction between private property and personal property? They like to say no one should be allowed private property, and I'm like, so I can't have like my clothes? No, that's personal property. Okay, so what's the difference? Where do you draw the line? There's no answer. There's no way to so I asked this. I have a camera. It's a small little camera. I use it to produce videos. Does it qualify as the means of production? Some people say yes, some people say no. There's no answer.
Yeah.
But when I was talking to the Socialist Party of Great Britain or whatever, it was funny. We got into a conversation where I basically said something like, if I want to like build a car because I enjoy working on cars, how would I do that in a socialist or communist system where my job is, you know, told to me essentially? Or maybe I chose a job. Maybe I decided I really want to be an accountant, but you know what? It's really fun to work on cars and I want a hobby. They responded with, well, it's really simple. You would just work on a car. I was like, well, how do I get the car? You would just go to the plant and say you wanted a car and you'd get it. And I was like, but other people want cars too. And they were like, right, but you can just go there and get it. And I'm like, no. There's a thing called scarcity. They don't believe in scarcity.
Amazing.
They don't. I had someone tell me, you really believe that scarcity exists? And I was like, I know for a fact it does, because like I've been around the world and I know that there's places with no food. And they were like, no, there is food. It's just artificially kept from them. We throw away so much food. I'm like, that doesn't mean, you don't understand.
I feel like the communists and socialists, more communists to be, if I'm being accurate, because I think there's a lot of people that misunderstand what socialism is and they don't realize that socialism leads to communism. Or Lenin said the end result or the end goal of socialism is communism.
Right.
I don't think that they realize that life is more complex than they seem to think. No matter how much food we produce in the U.S. and no matter how much we throw away, the inefficiency or the inability to efficiently distribute that food around the world is going to mean that some of that food's going to go bad and it won't get to people and blah, blah, blah. And just getting food to people in places that are very far away, it's not as easy as just, we can make it and it'll just show up there. I love the idea of, fully automatic luxury communism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
If you can come up with the Star Trek replicators,
Right, exactly.
fine.
Yeah.
Totally.
Take it
I'm
away.
on board.
Yeah.
Go
No,
right
no, no,
ahead.
no, to be honest, even in that scenario, no way.
Probably not. But
So they always say this to me, like, don't you want a Star Trek future? And I'm like, yeah, they have replicators, bro.
Yeah.
Like, they literally go, computer, Earl Grey, Earl Grey.
Earl Grey.
Yeah.
Hot. Yeah, there you go. And then it's just like, and it appears there.
Yeah.
They can teleport themselves. They can replicate replicators.
Not there yet.
Yeah, okay, that's post-scarcity, dude.
Yeah.
But even the Star Trek world isn't communist.
No, they have credits, and the Ferengi were
Yep.
always after Latinum and
Latinum. That's right.
I love Deep Space Nine. I really love that one.
Good show. But in the Federation, it was that people always say it was communist, but it's not communist.
No.
There was still, you had to earn things, you had to make your own things. When you joined, you had to earn your skills, and then you could choose to join certain jobs. You could freely move. You could freely quit Starfleet. There was no mandatory service. None of that.
Didn't Picard have a vineyard?
Yep.
Yeah,
That's property.
exactly.
So
They
it's
just it's kids who live in a fantasy world. They don't understand the harsh realities of the world. And I think that's why so many of these communist and socialist activists are young people, because they haven't actually ever experienced what it's like to be outside of the bubble. I'll put it this way. Could you imagine what Rockefeller would say if he was transported just like as like, at the peak of his wealth, he just appeared right now?
I think he'd be freaked out that oil was destroying the ecosystem.
No, he wouldn't.
I think he would be.
don't
I
think
think
why?
if he realized how destructive it is, like the fracking and just the extraction has become, he would rethink what he did.
I don't think so. I mean,
He's not
fracking
he
something
wasn't
else.
insane.
No, what I'm talking about is he was the oil baron. He was like the richest guy ever, or not even that. Let's do a better example. I don't know the names of anybody behind the East India Trading Company, but that was like the biggest company in existence at the time. Back what year was the East India Trading Company?
1700s, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
Imagine taking any one of these people, the wealthiest people in the world, and bringing them now and bringing them to a low-income housing project.
I don't have to throw my poop out the window.
Yeah,
Right.
man. That's great.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Even the poor people can just go in the little room and it goes away?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent
Clean
point.
drinking water,
Yeah.
air conditioning, refrigeration.
Air conditioning is a big one. I tell you what, not to get off on a tangent, but Europe doesn't know
I
about
know,
doesn't
man. What's
know
up with
about
that?
AC.
They don't get
Dude,
it.
I was in the UK. I'll tell you what, and I was going to be speaking at an event. They booked me at a hotel on the 4th floor of this hotel. All the heat was rising, and it was like high 80 degrees in my hotel room. And so I asked them, "Do you have a fan? I can crack the window and blow some air." And they're like, "What's the problem?" And I was like, "It's like 89 degrees in my room. I'm profusely sweating."
Dying.
And they were like, "Oh, okay. We'll see if we can figure something out." They found me a fan. I got my fan. I was like, "Okay." So I decided, I'm gonna take a bath and chill and maybe regulate body temperature. I turned the water on. The water was boiling when it came out. I was like, what are these people? Are they like fire
this
demons?
hell?
They can what is this? Anyway.
It's
air
only hot
conditioning.
for like 15 minutes in England. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
why.
fair.
Correct me if
probably
I'm
it.
wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I will.
I heard there's a statue to the guy who invented air conditioning in Miami.
There is. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I need to look it up, but
Look
there
it
does
up.
exist
Look it
such
up.
a thing.
People
Yeah.
have said that the reason why community has diffused in the United States, why we don't hang out with our neighbors as much, is because of air conditioning.
No
like in
way.
South America, they'll hang out outside on the front porch.
right.
That kind of makes sense. Yeah. I could see it.
Air
Yeah.
conditioning. I tell you what, the in Dogma, the movie by Kevin Smith.
Yes, good movie.
Yeah.
The scene where Jason Lee walks into the room, into the house,
Yeah.
and turns the air conditioning up, and just I feel that in my bones sometimes.
No exquisite sin greater than central air.
Perfect. I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. Kevin Smith's great. I
So,
love
so,
it.
True.
but anyway, to now that we're done making fun of this, was this guy? He invented. Okay, you find
John
it.
Gorey. Oh, yep.
Oh,
There
There's
it
a
is.
statue of the guy who invented air conditioning in Miami.
He
Good
seems
for him.
pretty cool. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Is it
That's my joke for
because?
the day.
But is it because he invented air conditioning? I was told it was because I lived in Miami for a year.
Well, let's look him up.
When you're in Miami, and in the summer, every window is dripping with condensation from the air conditioning on the inside and the humidity on the outside, and no one goes outside. Yeah.
It's like
So
101 and humid.
yes, and like the thunderstorms are awesome though. Like
That does seem
the
cool.
tropical storms,
yeah.
it's like, man, it's cool. It's just like you're gonna die, and you're like, yeah, it's great, but you're fine.
Storm, yeah.
Anyway, the point is, our poor people are overweight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
like, so I think we do have some kind of problem with regulation, and I don't mean regulation in terms of law. I mean like regulating resources in certain ways.
Sure.
So we have homeless people who are overweight,
Yep.
and we have poor people who have clean drinking water and air conditioning, but not lack of access to other resources. The point I'm trying to make is, when they say things like abolish poverty and poverty shouldn't exist, I'm like, well, if we base everything off of like 1900, there is no poverty at all.
Yeah.
None.
Absolutely none.
Except, I guess, homelessness. But even then, homeless people are overweight, so it's like a weird.
It's that sugar, that
Even-
addictive sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
We could
Even
do
home- Go ahead.
we could do something about the sugar industry.
I would love to get rid of corn subsidies.
Yes.
There is no reason to have
Thank
corn
you.
subsidies and have high fructose corn syrup and everything. It is a terrible policy in my opinion. And I would love to have sugarcane Coca-Cola available in the
Well,
lower 48 as well.
Yeah,
Well,
for
hold
sure.
on, hold on. Why is there sugar in everything? I wouldn't
Subsidized.
It's
mind.
addictive. It makes money.
You know what I like doing? You take a little shot of lemon juice, put it in club soda. Tastes
Yeah,
great.
That's it.
It tastes great.
Cinnamon's
I'm
a
gonna
little
put sugar
sweet.
in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It like extracts the sugar that's already in your body into your taste buds.
I mean, I'm a black coffee drinker. No sugar,
Yeah.
no anything. So I mean, I fully agree that we don't need to have sugar in everything. It's probably why we have so much diabetes, why we have so many overweight people.
Yep.
It's like
So-
the tobacco industry of the day. They're peddling it to kids
Yeah.
with commercials and cartoon characters like
Yeah.
they used to in like the 50s with tobacco.
I'm just over a year off of nicotine. I smoked for a long time. So that kind of getting people hooked on stuff, I take issue with it. So if we could do something to remedy that, I'd be all for it.
As a libertarian, how do you kind of go into that kind of? Do you utilize government regulations? How do you feel about those?
I don't claim to know enough about most situations to say this is what should or shouldn't be done, but I do think generally as a rule you get better results when it's done privately for most issues. There are certain things that I think that you can't do in the private in the private marketplace, but I think that most things are better left to private industry. So as for regulation, corn subsidies, I don't understand why we're paying people to either grow corn or paying people to not grow corn.
Yeah.
They pay people to not
right,
grow
is
What is
that
it called?
weird?
Fallowing? Is that what
I
it's
don't-
called? Fallow?
I don't know much about
I
it,
think
but I
it's
know
called
that they
I'd
do
have to look it
pay
up.
to keep fields empty and stuff sometimes. So I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm not in any way an expert, and anything that I say should be taken with a grain of salt. But the idea of putting high fructose corn syrup in everything,
Salad dressing.
Crazy.
I
Yeah.
don't think that's necessary.
It didn't exist
I don't
until
think-
the 90s, I don't think. 92, is that when they invented that stuff?
Really?
92?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
What
was
stuff?
no, seems
co-
recent.
high fructose corn syrup.
I don't know.
Didn't used to
know, yeah.
exist.
I mean,
Same with
corn syrup's been
aspartame,
around for a
man.
while. Yeah. Yes, for
Aspartame is deadly.
So fallowing isn't specifically, when they're forced to, but fallowing is when they till the land and then don't do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually interviewed some farmers when I was in California, and they said it's a big part of what happens is like they'll have the people come out and tell them, okay, we're gonna fallow your fields for the next amount of time, and we're gonna pay you.
Yeah,
It's like just paying them not to farm.
Dude, I was
I don't
doing
understand.
I mean, I think it's my initial reaction to a lot of these things is I might not understand, but I try to be very careful not to take heavy actions against or for something
Yeah.
just because I don't understand. So, for instance, Trump was paying off a lot of farmers because the trade war was hurting a lot of the farm industry. But the trade war was the result of us losing many jobs and production overseas that we needed to bring back. So it created this ripple effect, and then Trump had to plug a hole that popped up over here.
Did we actually did the trade war work? Because again, as a libertarian, I kind of was like, I don't think the trade war is a good idea. Trade war leads to real war. China's got nukes. They're already, getting buck wild in the South China Sea, and there's all kinds of stuff that's going on over there. I don't know if the trade war produced the results that we wanted to, because we're still trillions of dollars in debt to China.
The debt just kept going up. Yeah, especially under Trump. But I think in one way I can say I think we did is that a lot of jobs were coming back. And one of the problems is we don't make our own medicine. We don't make our own vitamin C, our own materials. And COVID was a real slap in the face to America. I mean, it proved Trump right in a lot of ways. It was last year, apparently, the Trump administration was saying, we need to restore our medical supply production back in the U.S.
He was saying it before COVID?
Way before COVID. Oh. But it's been Trump's thing. Yeah. It's we got to get our factories back. Here's what we got to do. And so it was some Trump admin people said it. I remember I covered it, and I was like, this was in September of last year.
Yeah.
We need to bring our medical supplies back to the U.S. Then COVID hits, and it was sign the executive order, get it done because we need it. And so I think even before all that, one of the reasons the economy was doing better and better, at least partly, was, the tariffs, the trade war, and we started seeing factories come back. I remember, I don't know if you saw what Michael Moore said in 2016 about Trump.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's so did you hear what?
No.
So Michael Moore had this bit where he went in he tells this long story, and he's like, Donald Trump went into a meeting with executives from the auto industry. And he said to their faces, I am going to put a tariff on your vehicles of 30%, and no one will buy your car ever again if you make it overseas. And they said, try it. And Trump said, I will. So these people who see Trump doing this are going to vote for him. And it will be the biggest collective FU in history. And he says, and they're going to love it for a week.
It'll feel good.
Yeah, it'll feel good.
Yeah.
Maybe a month, maybe a year. And then, the people who voted for Brexit, they will come to regret it. The best part about that is 3 years later, Brexit got voted on again and won. They did not regret it at all. Yeah. And the people who voted for Trump enjoyed the greatest economy of our generation. Yeah. So Michael Moore had the first part right, second part not right.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for COVID, I think that Donald Trump would be
landslide.
Oh, for sure.
I really
Redux.
Think so. I think that there's a lot of people that still don't want to say positive things about him, and there's the general consensus that it's politically incorrect to say good things about Trump, but I do think that if it wasn't for COVID, it'd be a landslide. And if you really look at the COVID situation, I mean, I was talking to someone on Twitter the other day, and I'm like, back in March and April, they were talking about everyone in the country's probably going to get it. 75% of America's probably going to get it. It's super contagious. And we're going to have 1% die. So you're talking about millions of people dying. And I mean, I don't want to downplay 200 and change thousand people dying, but if we look back at what was going on and what the conversations that were being had back then, and then look forward to, and come back to now, it's 200 and change thousand people is a whole lot less than a few million.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. That's what everyone was thinking. That's what I thought. I thought it was we're going to have
So it's a spot on point. There was a New York Times article where you had two slider bars, and you could slide up to percent infected and mortality rate. And they were if this percent of people contract it and we have this percent of mortality, it was 12 million people could die. And the low end was 1.7.
Yeah.
So it sounds based on what they were telling us,
the low end.
We are below the low end, and that what happened worked. And it's a combination of the Democrat governors locking down and Trump's efforts in banning travel together. Seems like it worked out for us. Not perfectly. People died. What can we do about it? Yeah. I tell you this. Trump misses his cues in these town halls and these debates because he gets asked, ladies and gentlemen, why is the mortality rate per capita in the U.S. worse? Why are more people dying per capita in the U.S. than other countries? It's Donald Trump's fault, they say.
Let's answer this.
Oh, I got a simple answer for you. It's because several governors put sick people in nursing homes, killing thousands of the elderly.
Crazy
They
Republican
didn't do that in
governors.
other countries, did they?
Yeah.
And that was Democrats who did that. And now Cuomo's like, that didn't happen. I didn't do that.
I gotta write my
I didn't
book.
kill all those people. Yes, he did. So you know what I like to think? Like you mentioned this. Sane, rational people have memories. People who have Trump derangement syndrome have selective memories.
Yeah.
They don't want to remember any of this.
I hate to, because of I have good friends that really hate Donald Trump, and so I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but and especially because I mean I'm definitely an outside viewpoint when it comes to the entertainment industry. People that are in the entertainment industry generally do not have a positive view of Donald Trump. And I get it, but like, it really does seem like you're right that people that really don't like Trump and have TDS or whatever,
Trump anxiety disorder is the official term.
It's an actual official.
Yeah.
it's,
Sure
it's
is,
such
yeah.
it's like a clown car on fire.
Seriously.
It's just
I love
No,
it.
but
ramming into the wall.
but
Clown body parts flying.
Think about it this
everywhere.
way.
True.
Flames.
I love it.
you've got people who love Trump and Trump can do no wrong.
Yeah,
There's a decent amount of them, but not if you took the
and they're clowny too.
for
Yeah,
sure.
they are in a different
right,
way,
right.
yeah.
But so here's the point: if you take Trump's diehard Trump can do no wrong individuals, and you put them in a room next to the Trump derangement syndrome, it's 10-1. The Trump derangement syndrome grossly outnumber the Trump diehard, fanatics.
Yeah.
So I often ask this question, and especially on this show, how do we know that we're not in the wrong side of history or in the paranoid bubble? Well, I'll tell you this: the side of history is really dependent upon the winners, I guess.
Yeah.
So for all we know, the communists win, and then we're the bad guys. Maybe that's what happens. But I can tell you, man, there's a couple ways to determine that we are on the correct side of things, at least in our views. And the first one I mentioned the other day is I can say I condemn white supremacy and I condemn Antifa. I have zero problem saying extremists who engage in violence for whatever reason are bad.
Yeah.
I think we've got extremist white supremacists who engage in very dramatic and horrifying acts of terror. And we have terrorism coming from Antifa. It's all bad. There you go. These leftists can't say it at all.
Yeah.
They can't say Antifa bad. They can't do it. But I'll tell you what else. I can say this. Donald Trump led us to a really great economy. Donald Trump's also an arrogant, boastful, like loudmouth, I can say Donald Trump's peace agreements are historical and amazing. And I can say Donald Trump saying we need retribution and that the feds went in and just killed the guy because they didn't want to arrest him. That's insane. The fact that I can easily be like, that's good, that's bad, shows that we are calm and rational and considering what's before us.
Yeah.
And the people with Trump anxiety disorder are not thinking clearly.
They're not.
But what about this? George Washington was a violent terrorist.
Well, I don't even think the British view him that way.
Yeah, he was literally deemed a terrorist by King George.
I've talked to my friends who are British and they say they don't. It's like you got. What I was told is you got to understand, Tim, that is a blip in our history that didn't even last that long.
because they didn't win.
No, but at the
George
time-
Washington's terrorist organization won.
Yeah,
time.
pretty great organization, I dare say.
liberal terrorist organization.
Love it.
Freedom and
But
individuality.
if you talk to Carl from Benjamin.
Yeah, sorry.
And so like I watch his stuff a lot, and I heard him talk about the United States as being the end result of what the English were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's just trying to take credit for the cool stuff we did.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
he might be.
The English were
He
they
might
the
be.
first to ban slavery as the English?
I don't know if they
They
were
were,
first,
yeah,
but
I
I
think.
know that they
Before
did.
us.
Yeah, they did it before us. And I'm thinking more along the lines of the way that individuals are looked at as opposed to the way that the monarchy was looked at in England. The ideas that the ideas that were like laid out in the Magna Carta and laid out that really kind of got their start in England.
Don't they still have a House of Lords where their
yeah.
political power is derived from their land ownership centuries ago? They've inherited.
I don't know enough about it to criticize a lot, but it does sound like a house of clown cards.
It's
You know?
true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I kid. I get it. I think a lot of these ideas made their way over here, and then something really interesting that happened, I guess, is distance from the crown,
Yeah.
people had no allegiance to something they didn't know about. I mean, you were born here.
Yeah.
And you grew up here. You're like, I don't know no king.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. And so people were like, stop telling me what to do.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider, like, if you were in England or whatever, you're in London. It's a very dense populated area.
Yeah.
You grew up in the colonies or whatever. You're in wilderness. It's wilderness as far as I can see. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You're like walking through the woods, like, you know, take a dump wherever, and like you're shooting your musket and stuff, and you're yelling and singing. You go back to England to go to London, and you got rules. You can't do that. Same is true for here in the U.S. You live in New York, you can't play loud music. You go in the middle of nowhere, you can fire a gun, you know, into the hillside or whatever.
I am familiar with that.
So you have a bunch of people. It's really fascinating because I was thinking about the urban versus rural debates that we have in the country. This is before like the internet era, you know, like maybe the 2000s. And I was like, there really is an interesting thing here where you see like the urban cities are very restrictive, and the rural conservatives are much more about freedom and openness because they have more space to kind of be free. And it's similar in many ways to like what made people want to leave these densely populated areas in Europe and then come to the new world and find something new.
Sanders was onto something when he was talking about the assault weapons ban, and he's like, "Look,
Seriously?
he's like, we don't have that problem in Vermont because we're a rural state, and so it's not a thing." And you know, as much as I was never really a pro Bernie Sanders guy. I was definitely much more of a Ron Paul guy, but he definitely had some points. You know, Sanders has had some.
Yeah, but he sold out.
Well, yes, he did. I mean, look, when he laid down and kissed the ring, which he should have never done. And I've again talking to some of my more left-leaning friends, that I'll be like, you know, look, Sanders was made a clown by Hillary Clinton and having to give up the mic to those protesters on his own stage, and it was just like he's a wuss. He's not gonna.
He can't be president.
I'm trying to be with. I'm trying.
You're doing it.
I'm doing it. You know, and then people will be, well, you know, they make the excuses, and I'm just like, Ron Paul never sold out. What? You
What's
know?
up? Yeah.
and people are like, oh, you know, I know you're blah 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 Ron Paul and da da da, but it's true. Like,
but
Ron Paul caught so much crap from everybody all the time. Dr. No, constantly
Yeah,
the
Dr.
only
No.
guy, or one of him and one other guy, him and Kucinich voted no on something that everybody else voted on.
Yeah.
That's why I liked Kucinich back in the day.
Yeah.
And you know, and the other thing Ron Paul did is he self-replicated a younger version of himself.
He did.
Who
Who
is
now votes
also
no and everything.
Rand is awesome.
I'm a big fan of Rand Paul as well.
There's like
who's the no vote?
there's very few politicians I will outright be like, I really like that politician.
Yeah.
And it's basically just Rand Paul, because there's other politicians I can say I like they've done this, I like they've done that. Like Ro Khanna, for instance, is a Democrat who called out Pelosi because she won't sign the stimulus deal, and I think he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
I think at this point the Senate is Republican, Trump, the presidency is Republican. If you want to get this signed and done, you don't have the leverage to sit there and scream. You just get the people the checks they need, and even he recognized that.
Yeah.
But Pelosi is like, no, I won't give Trump the orange man. He can't win.
Roe, yeah.
It boggles the mind. It's unfortunate that she has the cover that she has, because most people don't pay very close attention. I don't feel like they do, and I feel like that's what she's relying on. Because if the average person knew that the Democrats were holding up a stimulus bill, that they were the reason that we couldn't get something passed to provide relief for the American people, I think that it would have a significant effect on their attitude.
CNN called her out.
Did they really?
Wolf Blitzer
Good.
said your colleagues want you to agree to
Amazing.
this.
Good for them.
And she goes, well, we represent these people, and like they were both trying to get the last word. It was
Oh yes, okay.
You
I
saw
heard.
that?
Yes, I did hear that. All right, I heard. I didn't know exactly what the context was,
Yeah.
but I heard the exchange. So
And the crazy thing to me is, you normally got these lefties who defend the media and they're like, Trump is wrong for insulting the media. Now I'm seeing all of these progressives I know, CNN is trash. They don't understand. It's Trump's fault. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, fake news, huh? That's what they were saying about the New York Post too.
they've spent CNN has spent 3.5 or 4 years trying to do everything they can to discredit Donald Trump. Like 4 years of what program is coming up. It's the Orange Man Bad Show with Brian Stelter, followed by the Orange Man Bad Show with Chris Cuomo, followed by Fareed Zakaria and why the Orange Man is really bad and fat and unhealthy.
Oh, yeah.
So-
you know,
so
like
So here's the thing too. It's like maybe there is a bias on my part. I just praised Ro Khanna because he also voted in line with Trump to withdraw our troops from Afghanistan.
Yeah, get out.
And I'm like, this guy sounds pretty good. He's also voted on some things I think are kind of bad, and I'm like, so I don't agree with this guy across the board. But hey, man, if you're anti-interventionist, you want to get our troops back, and you're willing to compromise, and I will give you praise and respect.
Yep.
You turn on CNN. No, there's not a kind word for Trump at any point.
No. And
they do this. They do this faux recognizing Trump that's not real. Like, well, we understand the president, but.
Yeah.
But
the thing is, like you mentioned earlier, like Rand Paul, and I agree totally. Rand Paul, I'm a big fan. You can look at Rand Paul and see the way that people like Tony Poznanski, he's a Twitter guy. He's a hollerback guy.
Hollerback.
Yeah, he's one of those.
Guy.
He's one of those hollerback girls on the internet. And he just hates on Rand Paul. And it's like, look, I get that you don't like some of the policies, but really what you're hating on is this narrative that's been built about Rand Paul. Because Rand Paul is the guy that came up with the Justice for Breonna Taylor bill.
No one knows that.
And exactly.
Nobody
just
knew.
No one is aware.
They were yelling at him in the street.
Say her name.
I drafted the bill.
I said her name, bro.
It's like people don't know what policies he would be for or against. They don't know anything about his philosophy of how he thinks that the government should be organized and what the role of the Senate and Congress is and blah blah blah. They just go and they say, "Oh, Rand Paul, he's that guy that Tony Poznanski, the guy that sells baseball cards on Twitter, doesn't like." Like that. It's again. I mean. My shirt says everything is stupid and nothing matters, and it's really true. It really there's
in
so
like kind of faux Cyrillic.
I love it.
Exactly.
Hold on, yeah, there we go.
And that's I mean that's kind of a catchphrase that I've kind of adopted because there's just so much stupidity where people just don't know why they're upset or why they're angry, why they don't like this person or that person or whatever, you know.
I don't want to name any of these lefty channels. So just so you guys know, because I don't want to promote them or even drag them. I don't want people going. But it's like when there are people who try to make videos criticizing me, and it's clear they've never actually watched any of my videos. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. It's you have people who have found a way to monetize tribalist rage.
Yeah.
And then they say things that aren't true or don't make sense, but it doesn't matter as long as it satiates that tribalist lust for attacking the other. So you'll get a lot of these channels on YouTube, both left and right, that are like, this YouTuber's dumb. No, that YouTuber's dumb. And I'm like, I wonder if you guys actually watch each other's content. And they don't. They probably don't. You know,
maybe clips that are sent to them from.
And the clips are going to be out of context. Yeah. And it's like you could. That's why I'm very careful when I was quoting Prince Harry. When he made,
I heard that. Yeah, this is great. What Prince Harry said. Right, exactly. Prince Harry said
he
that
thinks this. Yes.
He thinks, according to Prince Harry, that this world, Prince Harry says, was made. According to Prince Harry, you got to do it that way because they're going to cut it and they're going to be like, "Look at this bullshit." There was one where I was paraphrasing.
That's
White
some
national.
Racist stuff that he said.
I know.
It really
it's
was,
super.
Yeah.
Okay, we got to say it now so people understand the context. But Prince Harry
said
that this world was created by
Prince
this
Harry
is according
says,
to Prince Harry, white people, and then he went on to say it was created by them for, according to Prince Harry, white people.
Can you believe
A
that?
full quote.
That's amazing.
Without the four Prince Harrys in between. But I do that because they're going to try and pull it and they don't care.
Yeah.
We should also point out he's not a prince anymore. Someone, I think I received some comments like he's not a prince anymore, guys.
Yeah, he lost his
Which is
title.
true. So now he's just Harry.
Good.
Whatever
He's
his last
he's
name.
just a guy.
Just Harry.
Well, then what do I care what some guy thinks?
No,
Seriously.
exactly.
He's just a guy.
He's just a guy that's holding Megan's purse.
Oh gosh, at this
what a
point.
loser.
Yeah, seriously.
That's kind of the deal, man.
Cringe, man.
He wants to be
She's just
normal.
she's like, Harry, if you want to get any tonight, you better get up there and you better say these things. You know?
Dude, she made him get rid of his guns. The man was a hunter and he was a soldier, and his wife made him get rid of his guns. It is a sad story, man.
I was in a relationship with someone that I really, really, really cared about, and I wasn't about to move somewhere where I wouldn't have.
No
so,
way, man.
I was like, no,
that's not a healthy relationship. Man.
No.
It's not.
You can't do that
No.
because she clearly doesn't respect him at all.
Yeah.
No.
What does she just want to be a princess? I guess
She wants to be president.
She
Did you
was
see
a
that
princess.
She wants to run
Oh,
for
geez.
president.
Oh, she does?
She
She
does.
does. She has aspirations of presidential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's gonna be. By the time she gets to the point where she could, AOC will already have
Yes.
taken the spot that
Wow.
she's after. I really think AOC is going to run at some point.
I'm really excited for an AOC presidency though.
Why is that?
Oh
What is
yeah,
that?
it's gonna
What
be
is
like
that?
it's gonna be like being at a circus. You
I
know,
mean,
it's
it
gonna be
might
like
be.
trapeze. There's gonna be clown cars
Cartoon
crashing into walls. Like you're
clowns.
saying.
Yeah.
Do, 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 do. And then we're gonna be sitting there like the news is gonna be crazy.
It's going to be great. And
Look.
they're going to be telling you how great she's doing as, you know.
Things are on fire. Yeah.
She's gonna be standing there with a smile on her face. People behind her are like screaming, and there's
She's
gonna be
like, please
fires and-
disperse. Nothing to see here.
It'll really end up being like the Hunger Games, really, where like, you know, the people that are in District 1 in DC in the area
Yeah.
are doing very, very well, and
Yeah.
they're vomiting
You're
so they
right.
can keep gorging themselves.
You know what I
and
love?
The rest of the country is going to be falling
Starving.
apart.
Yeah.
What people don't understand is like, I don't know if you heard the quote from Greta Thunberg where she was like, we don't want to wait till 2030. No, she's like, we don't want to wait till 2050 or 2030 or not even, 2021. We want it now. We want to end these investments and subsidies. It's like, yeah.
All right, Veruca Salt.
20 million people will
Seriously.
die overnight.
Yeah.
Because like we transport food into areas that have no food. Could you imagine if they got rid of fossil fuels? Like the Antarctic researchers would just die. Just like instantly they would just die.
If only like the ghost of Christmas future could come and grab all the socialists and be like, if we implemented all of your stuff, this is the future that you get. You know,
That'd
like,
be great.
Just the get where's that ghost of Christmas future to
That's the
come
key.
and show everybody what the future would be like if they got what they wanted.
I think it's because, going back to the conversation we were having about not, poor people being kind of well off, but there's weird distribution issues.
Yeah.
You've got these people that spent their whole life with everything handed to them. And we're at this point now where we're so well off, there's almost no struggle. Even when you're poor, you got food, you got air conditioning, you got clean water, you got a hot bath. And that's poverty level in this country. I'm not saying life is good for them relative to where it is for the middle class, but relative to people 100 years ago, it's living like kings. And so what happens is, if you can't clean yourself, and if you have dirty water, you live in the middle of nowhere, you drink from a well, you get infections, you get parasites, you get sick. Life is a struggle.
Yep.
Now we're at a point where even our, lower middle class are living very, very well relatively. And so based on survivability standards, which would be universal, not predicated upon the success of our country, they're kings. And so they grow up with their bare necessities almost essentially met. Everything's handed to them. They go to school. They're told what to do. They get a job. Finally they go through college, high school, whatever. They get their degrees, and they're told to do the entire time. They have no understanding about resource distribution. They've probably never even grown a plant. They have no idea where their food comes from.
Yeah.
So they're just like, I wake up and there's food. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna stop right there. I'm gonna tell you a joke. This is a really funny sketch where this apartment's all messy. And this guy's girlfriend comes in and she wakes up her boyfriend and she's like, you need to clean this mess up. And he goes, wait, let me show you something. And he puts the garbage on top of the coffee table and he goes, now all we have to do is go to sleep and we wake up, it'll be gone. And then she's like, are you kidding me? Because she's the one who's cleaning all the trash. That's kind of what it's like.
Yeah.
They just wake up one day, they walk in the cafeteria and there's food.
Oh.
Well, I don't know where it came from.
I would add also unemployment is very strange. I've been on unemployment. I don't know if you guys have ever been on unemployment before, but
Oh,
you
yeah.
get you lose your job, you sign up, you start getting a check $500 a week or whatever. But if you get a job that's going to pay you $400 a week, you lose your $500 a week.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's incentivizing you to not get a job.
Yep.
And these are the people now that are out there. They're probably on unemployment because of COVID. A lot of people encouraged to not get a job.
It's worse than that. When I was on unemployment, I worked a job that was essentially sales. It was fundraising, and so it was commission based. But that meant that the unemployment I was eligible for was dramatically lower
Yeah.
than what I actually earned on average. And so when I was on the phone with the woman, she said, have you looked for work? And I said, I have. And I was like, I have a question though, because there are jobs I could get, but they pay so much less than what I used to make. And like, I'm getting paid well. And she goes, no, stop. Don't take a job that pays you less. Stay on unemployment. And I was like, why?
What?
And she said, when we get people who take a job that pays less than their unemployment, they quit the job, they lose the job, you need to make sure you can maintain your standard of living. Otherwise, you'll be back on unemployment. That's actually a good point. If you have a base requirement, if you have a car payment and a mortgage or a rent or whatever, and your unemployment's covering it, and you find a job that will pay you, but it pays less than your necessities, She was basically saying we can't have that because then you'll be homeless, you'll be in
Stuck.
trouble.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that still creates this problem where it's like, okay, I'll stand on unemployment. I won't take the job. And
I feel
then,
like
what do you do?
I feel like Milton Friedman talked about that kind of stuff. I'm not super well read on Austrian economics and stuff, but that's something that libertarians do talk about. Is when you have government provided safety nets and stuff. If you're making if you're making $500 a week from the government, then you're not going to get a job for $450 or for $400.
A
$500,
better way to put it is that
usually.
it creates a tendency.
Yep.
Maybe most people would say I'd rather work because work is fulfilling. But maybe just enough people get trapped, and then you create a trap where you gradually catch more and more people,
Yeah.
and it gets worse and worse and worse.
I think that's the biggest problem is the fact that it becomes a trap where people, if you're getting $500 a week to start something on your own, that's actually above board that you're going to be, unless you're doing like a side hustle that you're not telling the government about. But like if you're going to start something on your own, then people get used to making a certain amount of money. So even if you can cut back and survive on 400, there's not a whole lot of incentive to do that.
Right.
Just to get off the government handout.
So what do you think about UBI, Universal Basic Income?
Again, that's something that Milton Friedman had talked about, and there is a libertarian argument. If it gets rid of all other entitlements,
Yes.
it's something that I think that may be worth talking about. But
That was Yang's position.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't hate on Yang at all.
I liked him. I think UBI, I'm not a big fan of it, but I thought he has a very comprehensive policy across the board.
I like him except for the fact that he was a Democrat. And it's not because there's anything wrong with Democrats. It's because of the official DNC
Right.
party. It's not that he's a Democrat and has would like Democrat policies. It's because I believe the DNC official is corrupt and bad.
I can give you one simple reason why you don't vote for Democrats. You can get a moderate Democrat to come out and say, I agree with everything you said, 100%, and I will put forth bills and I will agree on all of those things. And guess what? When Nancy Pelosi says, we're impeaching Trump, they
Yeah.
go, okay.
Yeah.
So you're empowering Pelosi and Schumer. And, I look at these moderate Democrats who won in 2018, and the meme idea I like to use is the Lord of the Rings, cast it into the flames. You've got Isildur holding the one ring, and it says Orange Man bad. And they promised they would cast it into the fires if you just got them to Mount Doom.
Yeah.
And then once they were there, the moderates yelled, cast it into the flames, and no. And they walked out and they went to impeach Trump.
The Orange Man is bad. It's such an idiotic. God,
It's awful.
So that's when I was like, you know what? You can't vote for him. Even if you do like, I really liked Yang and I really liked Tulsi, and I don't agree with everything Tulsi has in terms of her policy positions.
Yeah.
Or Yang either. When it comes to UBI specifically, I just thought Yang had like the most comprehensive list of plans that I've seen in a long time.
I'm a big 2A supporter. And that for me is
They were both gun control.
They're both bad.
And I've flipped on that completely.
Yeah.
Because of the riots.
Yeah, and I've always been kind of a pro 2A guy, but the fact that there's so many people that are purchasing guns, and I don't know if you tried to buy ammo, but it's a nightmare.
Oh man,
it's
gone.
not possible.
It's a nightmare.
Gone.
And I've taken, I go to classes every single year. I'm one of those guys that's like, if I talk about guns, I try to go down the 4 basic firearm safety rules, and I really advocate people getting out and training, and I put up video of me training so that way people see that I'm not just talking about it, which I think there are too many people that do that, like I actually walking the walk. And if you could give me a Democrat that would just say, you know what, I think that the Second Amendment means what it says, and that's something that I'm really not going to worry about. I'm not pro gun control. I could look at Democrats completely different if they, if there was someone that was like, oh, the Second Amendment means what it says. But
did you ever read the original text of the first draft of the Second Amendment?
I don't know. Maybe not. I know that there were multiple drafts and there were different places that they put commas and stuff like that.
So let me see if I can find it. So I think it's in Wikipedia. Maybe we can't. United States Bill of Rights. I don't know if I'm able to find it actually, but there were 17 before
We should get those printed up and put on the wall.
That would
the
be
original
really
the
neat.
original 17. It was like the 17 articles. I don't think I'm gonna be able to find it in this because
Do you want to Google? Do you want to search it?
no,
Rich?
no, it's on Wikipedia and it's a list. But I'll just tell you. Basically, the original text specifically said that a person who doesn't want to join the armed forces still has the right to bear arms.
Oh, really?
They got rid of it, I think, because they were worried that it would ban conscription or something like that.
Yeah.
But right now, one of the big arguments we see from the left is a well-regulated militia. The government's supposed to regulate it, and it's like that's not what they meant.
That's not what. They
And the
meant,
original
yeah.
text said something like, "This will not be." I don't have the exact language pulled up, but it was something like, "A person who refuses military service, still retains their right to bear arms."
Yeah.
Because what they were trying to make sure of, just because someone wasn't going to be in a militia, they can still have a gun.
Yeah. The idea that considering the Constitution is a document that expressly gives power to the government, and then the Bill of Rights is a list of things specifically off limits to the federal government. If you take the context, if you look at it from that context, there's no prior restraint or no prior limitation to what a person is allowed to own. And I hear some people arguing that the DC versus Heller case created a freedom or something like that.
What's
I've
the
heard-
case?
The DC versus Heller case is about whether an individual has a right to own a gun for personal protection. And the court found yes, the individual does have a protected right to own a gun for personal protection. And it's fairly simple. The people that find an issue with gun control or find an issue with the Second Amendment and that are pro-gun control, the way that they approach it is that the government has the authority to give you rights, and your rights come from your humanity. The government doesn't have the ability to give you a right. They can give you an entitlement. So the right to health care is actually an entitlement to the government paying for your health care.
To the people.
Yeah.
Not because the people have to supply the resources and the labor.
Exactly. So, but that brings in the argument of positive versus negative rights, and I don't think positive rights are actually rights.
They're
I think
not really
that-
rights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Negative rights are the only rights that can.
This is-
because you've talked about going out in the woods, and you have the right. You can say whatever you want in the woods because you can say it, and no one can stop you. You can you can take a stick and turn it into a weapon to because no one can stop you. But the actual having to do something for someone else is where the problem.
So
comes.
yeah, so the way I usually explain it is, if you want to figure out what your rights are, strip naked and go in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Anything you can do is your right to do.
Yeah.
That's fair.
You can defend yourself. You can create a weapon. You can scream all you want, and you're naked. You can take a dump. Once you start imposing on other people, like taking a dump in their water, you got problems. But so there's no doctor. You have a right to health care? Oh, okay. Yell at the grizzly. See if he'll come fix your wound. It's not going to happen. I was reading about positive and negative rights, and the easiest way to explain it is that a negative right to life means I can't kill you. We all have that in this country. A positive right to life means that if Ian tries to kill you, I'm obligated to save you. Or if you're dying or injured, I'm obligated to save you. I must do something. That's not a right. You have no right to someone else's life. And I think that's the big difference between authoritarian and libertarian.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say it's one of the. I should say it's one of the big differences. When they say healthcare is a human right, what they're saying is the labor of a class of people belongs to the people.
Yeah.
It's socialist. It's not a human right. You can't force someone to do anything. So what's going to happen? You're going to go to a hospital and be like, I try asking my lefty friends this. They have no answer, and they just kind of just dance around it because they can't. If healthcare is a human right, what would happen what would you do if you went to a hospital and the doctor said, I refuse to treat this person? Do you just point a gun at them and say, do it or else? What do you do if they say no?
You're in a position where you can't do anything without violating their rights.
Yeah.
You can't force someone to do something without violating their innate right to say, I don't want to.
Maybe the NPC people just have no individuality.
Well,
and so they don't care to lose it.
Right when it comes to rights, I think people should have a human right to the internet right now because it's technologically simple. So if medicine was simple, if it didn't take you or any other person, if I could walk into like a DNA replicator that would just heal my body back to full, then everyone should have a right to that, I think.
I
Well,
think that you could. Good.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah. In the world where we have post-scarcity technology and everyone can be healed,
It's
like
totally different argument.
Right.
though.
Yeah. It's totally different.
So like a right to the internet now, because electricity is so free and cheap for the most part, that we can gain new rights, basic human rights, I think.
I don't know. I think that I disagree, and I think the reason I disagree is because to have a right to the internet would imply that you have a right to a connection to the internet that has to be built by people,
maintained by people.
maintained by people.
Electricity.
There's a lot of things that go into it. You have the right to access the internet.
Yes.
Yes.
So you have the right to access healthcare. You have the right to access a gun to defend your life. The right to defend your life is innate, regardless of whether or not you have a gun.
I'll tell you what,
if
man.
if I jump across here and I attack you, right? You have the right to defend yourself empty-handed, right?
Yeah.
If you had a gun on you and I was threatening your life, you have the right to use that gun to defend your life. It's the defending of your life that's the right. And then the protection afforded you in the Second Amendment is that the government cannot prevent you from using a tool or whatever tool you find best will help you defend your life. So the Second Amendment covers knives, it covers nunchucks, it covers bows and arrows, it covers anything that's a weapon. That's why it
covers
says arms.
warships.
It does cover warships. Cannons.
I love this argument from the left that they're like they expect you to have a musket. I don't know if you've ever seen this commercial where an angry guy storms into an office and then he aims the musket and fires and then starts, he puts the gunpowder in and starts stuffing it. Everyone runs away. And they're like, this is what the founding fathers were talking about. And I'm like, dude, corsairs and privateers were a whole part of this thing for hundreds of years. You had dudes who privately owned warships that would sink government vessels. Second Amendment covers everything, dude.
I want tanks.
Yes, me too.
Well, tanks are legal.
Yes,
Tanks are legal. And I remember there was some guy who tweeted, you can't own a tank, dude. And then it was actually this it was a lefty,
Sure you can.
like a progressive, who was like, actually. And they wrote a story about a dude who owned a tank and was firing a full auto 50 cal into a lake on his property. And the police got a call because they hear doo, 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 doo. The cops pull up, and they see this guy in a tank into his lake. And then he stops and he takes his headphones off or whatever, and he waves, and they're like, "This your
Hello.
property?" And he goes, "Yeah." And they're like, "Carry on, sir." And that was it. Like, it's not legal. Like,
Be like,
checking
man,
on you.
what are you blowing all that money for?
Come on, man.
I'll tell you what, though. I got
really
good news
fun.
for you. Now that the progressives have shifted the argument from negative to positive, healthcare being a human right, if we have a right to access something, if our rights are positive, then the government is obligated to give us all guns.
I know. You'd think. You'd think. If only it worked
Ready.
out that
You get a
way.
voucher, and then you go to the Department of Gun Services,
Yes.
and you show your voucher, and it's good for one long gun.
We all know how crappy that
box.
gun would be.
I know. That's
Oh,
true.
yeah.
That's a good point.
I don't know a lot about guns, but it would probably jam all the time.
We can talk later. I know.
Yeah,
I know
sure.
a lot about guns.
What's
For
a
sure,
really
yeah.
crappy gun you think the government would give if they had to give guns?
Well, I mean, if they had to give guns, they've got ARs now or M16s now, so I guess they would give those, but they probably wouldn't be in proper working order.
It would be it would probably be a government manufactured, low quality, low caliber.
High points.
What is that?
It's garbage, and I'm sure there are people watching now that are like, yeah, that's what the government would give. The high point is it's. But if it's the only gun you got, it's the only gun you got, man. I'm not trying to
Gun's
dog
a
on the
gun.
high point. Yeah, it is a gun. It
Yeah.
is a gun.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, man, since the riots, you've got I don't know. Did you hear about this? A mass historical exodus of police in Seattle.
That's something that I think that I was kind of hoping that we would talk about is I think that there's going to be there's going to be a significant increase in violence in cities all over the country because cops ain't having it. They're just like,
Yeah.
man, you do you,
Yep.
you know?
Yep.
I'm afraid for what that means for your average person that just wants to go and live their life. But like, I'm not in any rush to see New York City look like it did in Taxi Driver. That
or
was
in June.
in June,
Yeah.
or just a couple
Yeah.
months ago. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
true.
Right.
It's true. I know people that live in New York that they're like, man, there's some wild stuff going on, and gunshots just hanging out in Brooklyn and stuff, and
It's worse than people know. I've been hearing some stories, man.
I'm sure that they're not publicized on big media.
Check it out. If you're walking down the street in New York and someone punches you in the face, is that news?
If it's Rick Moranis, it is.
If it's Rick Moranis, it is news. For regular people, it's not.
No.
And I was just talking to some guys, and they were saying, like, in Minneapolis, and it was crazy. This guy was like, we were talking about crime and defunding the police, and then he just stops and goes, "Oh, hey, did you hear so-and-so got punched in the face?" And they're like, what? Just randomly punched in the face. It's like, wait. You know somebody's walking down the street, someone punched him in the face. Yeah. And that's not normal. No, it never happens. It's not news. New York Times not going to come out and be like, another woman was punched. But apparently attacks like this are happening in a bunch of these cities, and the cops don't care anymore. So in Seattle, I think the number was 118 have quit the force, and probably dozens more are doing blue flu, right, where they call in sick all the time, and they're using their leave until they can get close to retirement. So this is from KTTH 770 up in, I think it's in Seattle. I forgot the guy's name. Jason Rance, maybe?
Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. And he was saying that they looked into it, they checked the numbers, and this is a historical exodus from the police department. Like, this number is ridiculously huge. And response times for 911 calls is up to 9 minutes. 9 minutes. So here's what I was thinking. If I'm going to be in a city where they tell me I can't have a gun, I can't protect myself, and then they're telling me the 911 is not going to be able to get to me for 10 minutes.
Leave the city.
Yeah.
What's that saying? When seconds matter, the cops are minutes away.
Yeah.
So I left the city.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived in New York, and I lived on that street where that black supremacist killed those two cops, if you remember that story. And that was when I was like, oh, man, I probably shouldn't live here. I went down to Miami for a little bit. When I came back, I went to the Jersey side. Then someone planted bombs in Jersey City and in Manhattan. And that was crazy. And I was like, I really want to get away. Like, I can see the tensions escalating. So I moved to South Jersey. Now I'm in the suburbs on the other side of the river from Philly, which is not that big. And I'm like, everything's fine. And then the riots happened in June, and the helicopters were...
We could see them.
And the sirens, too. And I was like, I'm in the middle of nowhere. What is this? So now
You thought you were in the middle of nowhere.
Now we
relative for me growing up in Chicago, in the city, people, like, whenever I say I'm from Chicago, they're like, oh, which suburb? And I'm like, no, I was in the city. Yeah, so now, like, the suburbs are the middle of nowhere. No, not good enough. They crossed the bridge, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
They were purposefully coming. They actually came to my sleepy suburb town, and I got an email notification from people. We had, like, that Nextdoor app, and they were like, why are they coming here?
That was when that's when Carl came over and you guys were doing that.
No.
The event?
Yeah, that was last year.
Okay, last year.
I'm talking about the riots now that happened in June.
Okay.
Like, people were like, yo, why are they coming to our suburb for this?
Yeah.
Like, why? Same thing happened in Chicago. But yeah, the event I did with Sargon.
That was in southern Jersey?
So it was in southern Jersey. It was in Pittman. And this is hilarious because these Antifa people came from far away, from like Brunswick or whatever, from, half an hour north of. I lived there. Like, I literally lived.
Dumb, probably 20-year-old college kid who probably thinks Mao was all right, and then he's like I'm a Marxist Leninist, and Daryl Davis is a white supremacist, and it's
dude.
And he made a post about it.
Yeah.
So I think most people know who Daryl is, but he's de-radicalized like 200 plus Klansmen, and he's a black jazz musician. He's an amazing person. And he said he just wanted to talk to him to understand him, and that proximity and that friendship actually changed their minds and changed their worldview.
Is there not a better refutation of the idea that you should punch Nazis than Daryl Davis? You're not going to convince, like when nobody punched the Nazi out of Spencer that day he got sucker punched. They didn't punch the racism out of him. Didn't work at all. That man is just as racist as he was before he got punched.
With different tactics.
Yeah.
But Daryl Davis sits down and talks to people and Klansmen that, will actually wear that dumbass outfit in public, and he can talk them out of it. Did I just mess up by swearing? Is that
that was
No.
heartfelt.
But seriously, like Daryl Davis talks people out of being Klansmen and befriends people that were racist.
Dude, his stories are amazing.
It's amazing.
Like that one story he has where he met this Klansman, and a lot of these guys just never actually met or interacted with a black person. And when he was talking to this guy, the guy was a big fan of rock and roll, and him being this musician who had access, he's like, I can show you this famous car. And this racist guy, this white supremacist is like, you can actually get me. you can sit in the car. He's like, oh. And then he went there, and like I'm probably ruining Daryl's story, but it was like it was so like, man, I was welling up when I heard it. He brings this racist guy. He sees this car from this rock legend he's always dreamed of, and he gave Daryl a hug, and he was like that shattered that racism in a moment. He was like, this guy is like one of the coolest, nicest guys ever to help me do this.
Yeah.
Man, I love the stories so we did that event, and he told these stories, and it was just like he got a standing ovation.
Good for him.
But it wasn't this profound thing where he did this great deal of work where he's like writing down, trying to figure out what to say. He just sat down and said, "What up?"
Yeah.
And we talked.
He's just a person, you know?
And then it was simply the act of trying to communicate with them that allowed them to understand their racist views didn't make sense.
Yeah.
My favorite story was that he said, well, that was my favorite story, but in one of his stories he said that he was hanging out with this Klan member who stayed a Klan member until one day he was at a meeting. This Klan guy told him he was at a meeting, and he heard them saying all these things about black people, and then he stopped and thought, that's not like Daryl at all. This doesn't make sense anymore.
I love it.
And then he gave his robes to Daryl. That dude is amazing. Those
Yo,
stories are so cool.
Is it true that he collected a bunch of robes?
Yes.
That is the coolest. That is the coolest, like,
But check-
scalping racist. Just taking.
Seriously.
Seriously, that's what it is.
Taking
It's
souls,
just,
man.
just scalping
But hold
racists
on.
and taking that away from him and being like, that's the coolest. You know?
They
I love
gave
it.
him their robes.
Yeah.
And then at his events, he brings them and he shows them off.
so cool.
And he says people often tell him to burn them and destroy them, and he was like,
way.
no,
No.
this
So
represents
cool.
someone leaving and the victory, and it's like it's like
Celebration.
capturing
Yeah.
the flag almost.
That's really
it's like,
neat. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Capture the flag.
absolutely,
Absolutely,
yeah.
man.
but it's I think it's important to show that like his approach in receiving these wasn't in any way adversarial.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, haha, now I've got your robe. He was like,
Punch him.
wow, I can't believe you've given this to me. That's tremendous. That's an amazing thing to do.
Yeah, Antifa's not convincing anyone.
They're really not.
No, they're not.
The kids that are out there that are getting into fights and stuff and you know, taking advantage. If you look at this is one thing that I saw. You look at the mug shots of the people in Portland.
Oh, man.
And Douglas Murray said recently on a podcast, he said, if you look at those mug shots, those are people in chaos.
Yep.
You can look at them and
Yeah.
see they're probably some type of mentally ill, you know, some kind of something like that, you know, and so you've got people that are taking advantage of them and getting people that are probably probably mentally ill to go out and behave violently and act out, and they're being, you know, egged on by people that probably aren't mentally ill.
Yep.
And they're just using them.
That's exactly what I've been saysaying.
You know?
like the Joker.
Yeah.
In the Dark Knight.
Yep.
The paranoid schizophrenic, Two-Face is interrogating him. Batman's like, Joker preys upon paranoid schizophrenics
Yeah.
like this.
That
Right.
is so interesting and compassionate what Douglas is saying there, because I think that is consistent. I was looking at it, and I even asked some of my Twitter followers. I was like, is being this weird looking a cause or an effect of being in Antifa? And I think it is just a sign of chaos. I think the crazy hair color, I think the crazy eyes,
Yeah.
I think they are a sign of chaos, and I think it's good and it's right
Free
to be a
ra-
little bit compassionate
Free
about
radicals.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
They don't really fit into any kind of culture. They're just kind of out there doing whatever. So I'll tell you what one of the things that scares me is there's something I call the scaling problem. So the way I explain it is, if Apple releases 100 iPhones to a bunch of celebrities and 1% of them breaks, one celebrity goes, my phone broke, and everyone goes, oh, that sucks. If they release 100 million iPhones to the public and 1% breaks, you got 1 million posts on Twitter of broken phones trending nationwide, and they're like, "What is going on with these phones? What?" But it's the same failure rate.
Yep.
So what happens when you have, let's say out of a society, you end up with like 0.0001% of people, or for every 100,000 people, you get one violent lunatic. As our population grows and expands, you start seeing more and more violent lunatics. Then they become groups of violent lunatics.
Yep.
Then they start going around smashing and destroying things.
Yeah.
So what do? Especially when you have an exploitation of these people for political gain.
Yeah.
So then you end up with establishment protection. So you have these people who are going around clearly unwell. You know, they're not all with it. And when they smash things up, they're called peaceful protesters. What I don't understand is it's helping Trump. The riots are good for Trump. It's bad for Biden. They try to hide
Well,
it.
it's bad for Biden, but it's less bad for Trump. I don't think it's good for anybody.
No, I think it's good for Trump.
I mean, they're terrible for everybody right now. Seems like.
It politically, it's good for Trump.
Yeah.
Like, of course, riots are bad for everybody. But I'm saying in terms of politics, I know people who were hardcore Democrat, and then the riots hit their town, and they became Republicans. Not even Republicans. They still hate Republicans, but they're like, but we need Trump to do something about this.
Yesterday, Biden tweeted that, or someone tweeted with his account, that Trump is the reason for the economy falling apart.
That is the most ridiculous, grasping at straws
the
thing.
heck?
And
That's amazing.
There are all these comments that were like, there's a pandemic, dude.
Yeah.
Bro.
Bro, remember?
What's,
Yeah, it's pandemic.
hey, I got a little off-topic thing I want to talk about when it comes to tech censorship.
Okay.
If you guys are into it.
Yeah, what's
Real
up?
quick, though, because we had a super chat.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, when a company's private, like Minds is private, the CEO has massive control of what they want to ban and block, and the board basically controls. Once a company goes public, it's their owners become people.
Yep.
And so there's these three companies called Blackstone, State Street, and Vanguard, and they're these gigantic, the three biggest like investment firms in the world, and they own like 8% of Apple. One of them will have 8% of Apple, 8% of IBM, 8% of Microsoft, 8% of. So it's just enough to not seem like they have much influence, but the three of them together control about a third of all of the tech companies in the world, Facebook, Google. And I wonder if it's not so much a military industrial, but there's like a financial.
Information.
Yeah.
Infowar. Infowars.
Oh, interesting. An interesting name.
Can you say that on YouTube now? Or
I don't know. That's why I did it.
is Susan Wiki going to come and shut you
Yeah.
down for
Possibly,
saying a
yeah.
name that can't be said?
Yeah.
So like why Facebook banned this story about Hunter, and Twitter did too, is because of the people that are funding the companies, not the corporate structure.
I think it's more just they're trapped in this establishment whirlpool where if it goes against the narrative, they're scared they'll get attacked, so they just go along with it. I don't think the beast has a head. It's running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Nothing makes sense. They're insane. They're just scared of each other.
It's part of a system that's.
It's a bunch of people standing in a ring, all pointing a gun at each other. It's like a 5 million person Mexican standoff, and no one really wants to be in it. But they're like, if I don't do this, then I'll get shot. So I better point the gun at the next person.
It's crab pot. This is people assuming that
Crabs in a barrel.
It's crabs in a bucket. They're assuming that if they try to crawl out, someone will pull them back in, even if it's not true. They think it's the case. And I think it's correct. There's no head to this monster. And I think people assuming there's a head is like kind of the root of conspiracy theories because it's often not organized. People are inherently disorganized.
If
If
you're
noticed.
If you're looking to be accepted in a group, then standing up and saying, "Oh, I think that," even just standing up and saying, "I don't know, guys, I think you might not be on the right track," that's enough to get people to be like, "Ah."
Yep.
Yeah.
You know.
And so
Right.
they're scared. It's kind of like in Shaun of the Dead when they all pretended to be zombies. You know, it's like nobody knows who the other zombie is, so everyone looks like a zombie, and it's like, I'm not a zombie. Are you a zombie? But if you ask, you're gonna get bitten by the zombies. So just pretend to be a zombie the whole time.
Yeah.
But let's do super chats because
All
we
right.
got
Yeah, we gotta do
we
super
got a
chats.
good super chat right here.
Oh, snap.
Dan IRL says Rudy Giuliani just dropped a teaser on the info he has on Hunter and Joe. Their links to corruption in Iraq, Ukraine, Russia, and China. It's damning. If true, Biden is a security threat. You want to look? Oh, we can't pull that up
I
right now.
can't right now.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, so we'll
look it up.
yeah, I'll look into that. But make
Check it
sure
out.
also if you haven't smashed
I'll
that
take a
like
look.
button, if you're listening, hanging out,
do it.
give that like button a good old smash, and we're gonna read some more of these here super chats.
Rudy.
Let's see. Epic Toad Rage says, Tim, would you do a Trump interview live if he was willing, and a Biden one as well? Though I'm sure his handlers wouldn't allow that to happen. Of course,
That'd be so fun.
of course I would. And a lot of Trump people would get really mad at me for some of the questions I would ask Trump, but then
Good.
kind of be like, okay, well at least he's pointing out the media's lies and stuff.
The Trump people ain't going to show up at your house.
That's right.
Well,
Chill.
here's the thing though. Like this is the point I was making earlier. I routinely criticize Trump on various things. Like today I tweeted it's insane for him to say that maybe it was yesterday when he was like they didn't want to arrest him. It was 15 minutes and he was gone. I'm
That's
like,
so stupid.
That's insane, you know.
So
and
dumb.
and when he said we need retribution in reference to killing,
Dumb.
but I don't have anyone trying to take my job from me. I have people. You know what the worst I get from Trump supporters? What a libtard.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, oh, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like you ever see that Family Guy joke where he's like, the worst thing they have in Britain is drive-by arguments? And then it shows like the British guy goes, I say, is that, so-and-so? And he goes, pull up, rolls the window down and he goes, hey, I disagree, and then he drives off. That's the gist of what I get for the most part from Trump supporters.
Yeah.
They'll post something saying they like, oh, Tim's dumb, I disagree with him. The left is like
right.
posting lies about me, posting
They're
pictures
trying
of
to ruin
family.
you.
I get death threats.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, no,
dude.
of course, right. It's like the worst possible thing you could possibly get,
Yeah.
posting my address.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, these people are absolutely insane.
The place that I bought, like I told you about I got a place in the woods and stuff. My place is in the back of my lot, 48 acres and way in the back and tucked away because of stuff like that. Because people are just like, oh, blah blah blah, and they're nuts. You know, the stuff that people on the left say, and as if it's acceptable. You know, so,
This is why when Trump did the town hall with Savannah Guthrie, all she did was yell at him the whole time.
Yeah.
Because they all know conservatives will roll their eyes and grumble, and the left will send death threats.
Yeah.
So they try to appease the left. That's all you're really going to get. I'll tell you what, they won't go after Biden for the same reason.
Yeah.
I'd love to ask Biden to disavow Antifa by name.
I just couldn't believe that they didn't say anything about the fact that Twitter and Facebook, snuffed the story.
Yep.
Never mind, the content of the story, because I understand that there's people are going to be like, oh, that's not true or blah blah
the
blah. Whatever.
censorship.
But like, do you feel like these platforms should be doing this? And I said yesterday, I was like, this is the biggest story going on in the country right now, and there were people like, oh, it's a big story because Biden, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, just poo-pooing the idea. And I'm like, no, the idea that these companies are literally putting their finger on the scale of, right before the election and stuff. That's the story,
It's not the story itself. It's the story
Yeah,
about the story.
exactly.
It's kind of interesting.
Dr. Rollergator says, give Lydia a
Yes.
raise.
Woo! Heck yeah.
You knew.
Dr. Rollergator. I love him. Dr. Rollergator for president, man.
Daedalus says, if Joe was a serious candidate, she would have started her campaign a few years ago. One vote won't change anything. Several million differently smart people.
Fair.
Fair.
We have 3 people have now said bring on Tom McDonald. I mean, I'm always down.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
whatever.
fun.
He's a cool dude. Do you know Tom? He's what is he, rapper? Is
He's
that?
a rapper.
think
He's
so,
a
yeah.
musician.
I don't know if
Musician.
hip hop
Define
artist
it.
or rapper is the right way to.
It's a new genre of kind of a musical rap.
Interesting.
It's
music
really good.
rap.
It's political.
Musical.
Yeah.
It's political. It's
It's very based.
Tom McDonald.
Tom McDonald.
Yeah,
We're
super
looking
good
him
stuff.
Up now.
I will.
He's cool.
Lowen Murray says, will Tim red pill Phil into voting for Trump?
No. I'm here to red pill anybody.
Now, I'll tell you what. I know a lot of people who are voting for third party, and I say, absolutely. Vote your conscience. My respect. You know Ken Bone?
I do love Ken Bone.
So he was famous from that town hall, I guess, with Hillary or whatever.
Stole everyone's heart.
Yes, and he announced he's voting for Joe Jorgensen. And then he tweeted, it's really telling that the left is attacking me relentlessly and the Trump supporters are being so nice.
Yeah.
The Trump supporters' response is like, vote your conscience, man. If
Yeah.
Joe's the right person for you, you got to do your thing. You know what I mean? And don't let us, bully you. And the left is like, it's a vote for Trump.
Yeah. The hive mind kind of deal that's going on with people on the left, and I get that you don't like Trump. Okay, I get it. It's like fine. I can understand why. And there's
People
stuff I'll
are
agree.
dying, Phil.
Oh, God.
They're dying.
I actually have groups of friends on Facebook that say, "Hey, hive mind," and then it used to be cute like 2 or 3 years ago, and now it's like really freaky.
That's really
Now
who
it's
they're
scary.
talking to. Yeah.
Like now they mean it. What were you saying? I interrupted you.
It's just it's mind blowing that there are so many people that are just so like, oh well, this guy has to be bad because the TV and everybody that has respectable opinions is saying that he's bad.
So we got Matt Mitchellek says, in terms of California repealing state civil rights, wouldn't the federal protection still be in effect and supersede the state repeal? My understanding is yes, but it would require a lawsuit.
Yeah.
So it would have to be sued and then go up to the courts, or Trump would have to decide to intervene, which I'm sure Trump would love to do. But it's on the referendum for next month.
The only things that Trump loves to do is stuff that's culture war. He doesn't really know. I guarantee he has no idea about the policies that the Republicans have passed.
He doesn't.
He has no clue, no idea. But he knows that a UFC fighter likes him, and so
That's
he gives him
right.
a call.
Yep.
So being mad at Trump, you're being mad at the culture war.
I'm gonna give him a little bit more
point.
credit. I think Trump knows his agenda when he's talking economy, bringing back manufacturing. Trump's
fair.
like, here's what I want to do. But I think in terms of what the Republicans want to do, for the most part, John Bolton is evidence he doesn't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when he was coming in there, he was like, I don't know about foreign policy. I'm just here to make the economy work. They were like, bring in John Bolton. He's like, okay. And that was a big mistake.
Yeah.
Not only was it a mistake from the perspective of anybody who doesn't like war, the dude turned on him and wrote a book smack talking him.
Yep.
So it was a big mistake in a lot of ways. I don't fault Trump for not understanding that political, game and who these people were, but I do think it's fair to point out he didn't know.
Yeah.
And so when you get the more political bureaucratic system, Republicans want to pass this bill. Trump's probably half the time going like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I feel like he's like just shit posting his way through the
I think you might be right.
through the White House, man. He's just like
Life. Yeah.
yeah, he's just like whatever,
Say this and see
You
what
see him
happens.
tweet the Babylon Bee?
No, did he retweet the Babylon Bee?
The Babylon Bee put out a story saying Twitter shuts down entire network to prevent spread of story, which was like half true,
kind of.
It was a joke though. And Trump retweeted it saying this had never been done in history, and then everyone started laughing, saying Trump fell for the Babylon Bee. But a lot of Trump supporters started saying it was 4D chess, and I'm like, come on, man. Sometimes it's just slipping on a banana peel.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's it. Trump can slip, but you know
Phil
what?
agrees.
But I'll tell you what. Sometimes Trump slips on a banana peel and does a perfect backflip.
That he does. He didn't know that a lot of the tumultuous issues going on in today's society have their roots based in critical race theory.
Right.
But it's
But someone on Fox News
yeah.
said, I'm calling on Trump to ban this, and Trump did it.
Yeah, and he looked at it and he said, "Oh, that stuff's stupid. Get out of here."
Yeah.
Which is fine with me because if you're going to go ahead and if Trump is the guy that's going to, cut the feet out from under critical race theory, then I'm good with it,
That's a big thing for me. I think the peace agreements are great, withdrawing troops is great, no new wars is great,
Yep.
and the critical race theory.
Yep.
So I'll tell you what, the big difference between Joe Jorgensen and Trump for me is the critical race theory issue. Because otherwise Joe could have been a serious viable candidate for me.
Yeah, I mean, I went and I saw her, and I actually got to talk to her for a brief second. And I don't know that she would make a great president, but the Libertarian Party, the ideas that libertarians put forward are good ideas, in my opinion. So
I agree.
I there's a lot of stuff Ron Paul talked about I didn't agree with, particularly religion and pro-life and stuff.
Yeah.
But I felt, and this is one of the reasons why I was a fan of Bernie in 2016, because I remember the Ron Paul, was it 2008, I guess? The Ron Paul Love Revolution.
Yep, that's when I found out who Ron Paul was, and that's when I was like, all right, this is my dude.
It was really simple for me. He was just Dr. No. The government, step back, shouldn't be doing these things, let people live their lives. And I was like, I like the idea of freedom. I didn't agree with him on a ton of things, but I thought if his only position was going to be, don't worry, I won't let the government do it, I'll be like, then what do I care about your opinions if you don't let the government impose them? Yeah. And then with Bernie Sanders, I guess with Ron, you had this guy who'd been in office forever, who believed what he believed. He was a statesman. He was serious and honest. And I saw that in Bernie Sanders. And then I saw that wash away from Bernie Sanders when he went on stage and started lying and playing race politics, and then kissed the pinky ring.
Yeah.
So
it's a shame.
I like Rand too, because I think Rand takes after his dad. I think
I mean, he might be unkillable too. COVID,
the
his
lung
neighbor.
shot. Jeez,
yeah.
dude.
Didn't he get like a piece of his lung removed?
Yeah.
Wow.
Recently, yeah.
Man of Steel.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's read another one. Where were we? Okay. 615 says, didn't know if you saw it, Tim, but on Crowder's live stream, he had Giuliani on last night, and he said it was Hunter who brought it in and has Hunter's signature on the receipt of repair. It's all legit.
Oh wow.
Really?
If they can produce
That's the laptop, by the way.
the receipt with Hunter's signature on it, I mean,
Look, Occam's razor, it's simple. Hunter's a rich dude. He spilled coffee on his laptop or whatever. He brought it in, went to a Best Buy, bought a new one, and he's rich and didn't care and forgot about it. I was telling this story. When I was working for Disney, I had bought a brand new Surface. It was a couple $1,000. And I had it for like a week. And I was walking down the stairs, and I tripped, and it fell out of my hands and shattered on the ground. But I had a production budget. So I
had a production budget.
So like that, I got a new one.
Heck yeah.
And totally forgot about it. And it's sitting in a closet somewhere.
broken.
But also with if he was on drugs or an addict of some sort, that destroys your memory. I mean,
Yeah.
from
Oh,
my
yeah, dude.
personal
Absolutely.
experience, if you're taking a lot of
I'm just-
drugs,
I'm
and
just-
it
Seems likely.
weed was my drug of choice. My memory was shot.
Could
The
you-
simple things? I would literally forget stuff like that I brought a laptop in with personal information on
Yeah.
it. It's that
I'm just
dangerous.
I'm just imagining him.
Absolutely.
You know, he's sitting there and he's looking at the crack pipe and he's like, I was supposed to do something today?
Yeah, it's like an impulse.
Did I-
Words don't even form.
And then his hand goes like type and he goes, wait, what am I doing?
And like he probably
Gosh.
hates his dad and has like, I don't want to assume, but he probably like is all resentful that his dad
sure
made him
he
become a
does.
lawyer and like sent him all these prep schools, and he just because he wants to party. This guy.
I got to issue a correction though, because crack isn't a downer, so he wouldn't be acting all
upper.
slow about it. He'd be like, yeah, and then he'd like start putting a jigsaw puzzle together or something.
I mean, I
He'd
do,
stay
I
up all
do
night and
understand
lose
what
weight.
you're talking about losing memory. I used to drink too much, and there are significant portions of the early part of this or the last decade that were just kind of fuzzy.
It's sad because it'll be
blurry.
like little things like for calling your mom on her birthday
Yeah.
or something.
Oh,
you just
man.
like don't even remember that it's her birthday. that
Yep.
day.
Drugs are bad.
Yeah.
Drugs are bad.
Yeah,
and
don't do
coke.
the bad drugs.
They are.
Powerful.
Booze is
The,
probably worse, but
Yeah,
still.
I agree.
It's a
The
powerful
the evangelist
legal drug.
says, literally listened to 6 on the shuffle. I love this timeline.
Whoa,
I figured
snap.
you would
There
know
we
that,
go.
'cause I don't-
Yeah, there we go.
Six. It's a song that was on Guitar Hero 2.
Oh,
and
nice.
It's one of our bigger songs. So.
Ah, cool.
Cheers,
Super
man.
Cool.
Right on.
Yeah, man.
Check
Now-
out my stream. I play it every night.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Twitch.
Shout out your stream, man.
Phil that
there we go.
remains. I'm Phil that remains on everything.
Yes.
So if you want to find me on Twitter, on Instagram, I stream on Twitch Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Not this Friday, obviously, but and I sing songs and
I've heard of your
Down,
band,
have fun.
cool.
but
I
I
have
know
heard the
you
band.
for your politics mostly and your commentary from
That's
social
okay,
media.
too. I've been watching your stuff since I mean, I'm not sure when you started Timcast, but I started watching a lot of YouTube around 2008.
Oh, wow.
Around Occupy and stuff like that.
I was streaming during Occupy. Then I went to Vice.
Yeah.
Then I went to Fusion, which Fusion was kind of a golden handcuffs period where
Yeah.
like they didn't let me do anything, but they paid me a ton of money. And then I started my channel back up.
When year did you start?
2016 is when I started making videos, but 2017 was when it really ramped up.
I definitely
had
was
vid-
watching it 2016.
Yeah.
I had videos from 2011, and they're like awful. It's like really
Embarrassing.
bad.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say embarrassing. I'm proud of all that stuff.
I
like
put out
I was working. I was doing the work. You know what I
We
mean?
put out a record in 2002 that I really am in no rush to listen to.
What band?
All that remains.
When did you guys form? Like, what was the history of the formation?
1998.
Wow.
Nice.
So I used to sing for a band called Shadows Fall, which was a metal band that got around and done some stuff. And they kicked me out because they wanted to get another guy that had become available. And so I had started writing riffs for a band that I wanted to create when I was in Shadows Fall because I was singing in that band and I wanted to play guitar again. So started writing stuff and they kicked me out. And so it's like, oh, well, I got all these riffs. I might as well start a band and put together a band and put out our first record. We recorded in 2000, actually came out in 2002. Then we put out another record in 2004. And then the record that kind of broke us was a record called The Fall of Ideals that came out in 2006. And that had, we had a song on the Saw 3, I believe, soundtrack.
Oh, cool.
It's the second, if you watch the movie, it's the second song during the credits. So it's at the end. And we had a song in Guitar Hero, which really did really, really well because it was really hard. So it was like the second hardest song in the game. So
Cool.
on Expert,
I used to
kids
be
are
really-
just drilling it into their heads.
I used
you
to
know?
be really good at Guitar
So
Hero.
neat.
I was bad at it.
It kind of annoyed me though because I've been playing guitar since I was a kid. So
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to do this.
Come on, man.
I'm just gonna play the song and turn the music on. You know what I mean?
When
Our guitar player, he started playing Guitar Hero. Kids would come up on the bus and they would beat him, and then he was like, "I'm not having any
I
of
don't like
that." And so he didn't like stop playing. He just sat down and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced until
so
he could do
great.
that
I love
and
it.
get through it.
When I was a kid, I learned for the most part by just playing the songs I wanted to play.
Yeah.
That's Guitar Hero. But I could actually play the guitar.
Yeah.
So when Guitar Hero came out, I got good at it, and I was just like, I can actually play the song though. Like, you guys want to jam? And then we would just go jam.
You know, they have a game called what's it called? Guitar.
It's where you
Guitar
actually
Smith?
plug your guitar in.
Yeah,
Guitar
you're
Smith.
actually playing
Yeah.
on your guitar, playing
Yep.
songs. That's the coolest thing that I've
That's
seen.
very
on
cool.
Yes.
It's like karaoke. For
Super
guitar.
cool.
That's neat.
When you guys started, what city were you in?
We're from Western Massachusetts, so Springfield.
Did you send out a Craigslist ad? How'd you find everybody?
So I started playing. It was a scene, very much a scene. So like the same people were showing up at the same club every Sunday, right? That was when metal bands and stuff you could play. You knew Sunday nights were the local shows. There was a guy named Scott Lee who's still involved in producing shows and stuff. And he was the guy that kind of the scene followed. So it was at one club, and then he went to another club for a couple of years, another club. So it was we just knew a bunch of the same people, and a lot of bands that are from the area kind of had different people that tried different bands. So there's a band called Killswitch Engage. You might have heard of them.
Oh, yeah.
They're from our area. Shadows Fall, All That Remains. There's a band called The Acacia Strain. There's a band called Unearth that's from Massachusetts. And there was a lot of the same dudes playing in different bands with different people, you know. So it was more a situation of being like, hey, what are you guys doing? Oh, well, you know, two guys quit our band, so we're kind of not doing this band. Well, we got these guys, you know, we got this going on. And I filled in playing guitar for Killswitch Engage before they were Killswitch Engage. They were a band called Aftershock, and I played guitar for them for a little while, filling in. And our guitar player, Mike Martin, used to fill in for Unearth. And, you know, there was a bunch of that bouncing around of incestuous relationships between the bands.
Right on.
It was really, really cool to be there and kind of be a part of that at the time, because bands like Killswitch and us and Lamb of God and you know, Unearth and stuff, they really did make a mark on the metal scene, and it's cool to have been part of that, to see it, you know.
We got a very important super chat.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Daniel says, your guest reminds me of the Master Chief from Halo. Can your guest please say, I need a weapon?
I need a weapon.
Have you played Halo?
Oh, I know John. John 117. I know John. I know Spartan 117. Yes.
For sure, man.
I read the books about the Halo books, so I was into that kind of stuff too. So
Right
I
on.
believe you would need a weapon, yeah.
So all right, here we go. Yaroslav says, libertarians can't be against borders. Libertarians are for private discrimination and freedom of association. And there is no freedom of association without freedom not to associate, meaning lots of borders, especially private borders, with love from Russia.
Interesting. I could see it.
fair. I understand what he's saying. Yeah.
There you go. Here we go. 615 Bass says, I believe Giuliani showed the receipt on stream and said the repair shop owner would absolutely be able to ID Hunter.
Gotta look it
Wow.
up.
We'll see what happens, man.
This is going to be a fun month.
It's
huh?
gonna
Yeah.
be interesting.
We're gonna need to make like a month's supply of popcorn. Just to,
tell
just
you
to
what,
watch the
we have it.
show.
bags
I know
and
we
bags
do.
of it.
Yeah.
I just ordered a bunch.
Yeah, we have
All right.
a bunch.
All right, let's see. Let's jump down. Promise. That
Thank
being
you,
said,
dude.
what happens to the nation if 16 passes? Oh man. My fear about Prop 16 in California is that they say what happened in California eventually happens in the rest of the country.
True.
I don't want to live in a country where we go back in time and we get rid of civil rights law and all that stuff. It's not going to be fun. But I honestly don't know what happens.
That was when Kennedy was the first person to use the last person to use the national military in like a state dispute when he desegregated that school. I
But
believe.
wasn't that the National Guard?
Yeah, he brought in the
Yeah.
National Guard. Oh, maybe not the last. Someone was saying because Nixon brought in the National Guard into Ohio
Yeah.
to put down the.
But National Guard
protests.
doesn't qualify or doesn't count as military, as I understand it.
Interesting.
I think someone knows you. Jason Broyles says, tell my old friend Phil I said hello.
Jason Broyles. Hi, Jason.
Very cool.
Is that someone you actually know?
The name is familiar. I don't know that. I'd
you
have
on
to.
the spot.
There's a lot of people that if I see them,
Bet you
I'll
know a lot
them.
of people.
Rock and roll.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I've met some people.
I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe it.
All right, let's see what we got. We'll do a couple more super chats. I don't want the internet to keep cutting in and out, so
Yeah, I had access on my computer.
Cool.
right on. Let's see. The Quartering says, I love Trump.
The quartering?
Is that
Quartering.
Jeremy?
Yeah.
Is that actually Jeremy?
I
The
think it's
quarter-
actually Jeremy.
Jeremy.
I like that guy.
Bro.
Jeremy,
Like that
come on the
dude.
show.
He
Yeah,
works hard.
Come on, Jeremy.
Yeah. The Quartering, he says, I love Trump. B, he didn't know. Jeremy, what did
Huh.
you mean by that?
What?
We're going to have you on the
Mystery.
show.
Explain yourself.
He says, The Quartering said, if you love Tim Pool but would prefer a man with a full beard, I have a channel.
He's right. His beard is divine.
Jeremy, oh, that's great. I really like his show. I am sub to his both Midwestly and to the Quartering side.
Jeremy's a good dude.
What's Tim's comeback?
The comeback is if you want a full beard, Jeremy's gonna have to come on this show in order for you all to get access to it. So,
Oh, snap,
so Jeremy,
yeah.
Jeremy hit me up,
Oh,
and we'll fly you out or whatever.
Yeah, it'd be
we can
fun.
set up. What is this? 45,000 people on here now make it trend. Trump on Timcast.
oh
Trump on
snap.
Timcast.
Let's do
There we
it.
go.
I want
No,
it.
you know what Trump does?
I'll
He
produce it.
invites people to come to him.
Oh, yeah. He
Yeah,
does,
that's
doesn't
what he does. Yeah.
Trump invite Timcast.
Rude says, have you considered having Ben Shapiro on your show?
Oh.
As a social liberal and him being a conservative libertarian, I believe a conversation between you two would be interesting.
Speed of words.
We talked about that before. The speed at which we spoke would be so fast that it might
Fry
create.
my freaking brain.
Yeah.
A black hole.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
wouldn't
would
be able to
travel
switch
through time.
cameras for you guys.
Create a singularity.
You guys would end and just be starting
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
in time.
I can't switch for that.
CD Saint says, I had no idea Phil was from ATR. Let him know 2 weeks helped me get through a rough breakup. It was my workout anthem.
Love
2 weeks helped me get through a rough breakup too,
Heck
homie.
yeah, man. Help me get through high school.
Someone says, get Sargon on, and the game is Rocksmith.
Yes, Rocksmith. That's it.
Cool.
Sargon's got an open invite. It's just, COVID's made
on,
everything
man.
really difficult for international
Fly
travel
over
stuff.
here.
Yeah. Let's see. Omega Knight says the National Guard is military, and most of them at this time are combat veterans. Yes, they are controlled by the governor of their state, but they are military. Interesting.
All right.
Let's see. Alexander Scarpecci says Tucker Carlson confirmed the authenticity of the laptop on his show tonight, and all that remains is awesome. Reminds me of my days in Iraq.
Cheers.
Cool.
Heck yeah, man.
Black Lion Grunt says Jews in New York for Trump 2020.
Yeah.
Sick.
That to me was really interesting to see when they were protesting, waving the Trump flags.
Yeah.
Like that's in New York.
One of the moderators for my Twitch channel is a Jewish kid from Brooklyn,
Super
and
cool.
he's super cool, and he is extremely not impressed with Bill de Blasio.
Oh,
I believe
dude.
it. My goodness.
It's
mini tyrant.
what's going on in there. You've got these hot spots, but the city is specifically going after the Jewish community.
I can't even believe that they're behaving like that and getting away with it.
Yeah.
I can't believe there's not more of an outcry from like the ACLU and from
Nope. Because that's why I'm saying it's this they're trapped. They're like, but we can't speak out. Bill de Blasio is progressive. It's like, dude, he's literally like. Do you see the video where the cop goes up to the synagogue and he holds the camera in the window and then looks at it to make sure they're not praying? What is
unbelievable?
He like puts the camera in the window and tries to see what they're doing inside the synagogue. It's
And
like,
Cuomo.
dude,
nuts.
Yeah.
have you read a history book about what you're doing?
Yeah,
But
it's incredible.
For me, you don't hear these stories. Like they shut down churches, but they're going after the Jewish people in New York, and man,
What was it Cuomo said? Got to stamp out the
yeah,
hot spots.
stamp out the clusters. That's what he said, dude.
Weird rhetoric, bro. I don't like it.
He was like, we have these hot spots, and he's like, and I'm referring. I don't want to quote him because I don't think he said it in the same exact sentence, but he specifically calls out the religious community, the Jewish community. Then he says, we've got to stamp out these clusters. And I'll tell you what, out of the hot spots that are popping up in New York, most of the targets of his lockdowns were the Orthodox community. So he's like ignoring some areas. So a lot of people are kind of like, what are you doing?
I'm very atheist, but I also am a very strong believer that when you start saying that a religion or people that believe a religion are or a problem or bad,
To blame for something.
that is really, really dark territory. Like we managed to dodge that kind of stuff at home after 9/11. Like there was some people that did stuff, but generally as a nation, we didn't turn into we hate the Muslims that are here in the U.S. Now, there's an argument to be made that we exported a lot of war to Muslim countries, and I get that, and that is a reasonable argument to make, and it's something that should at least be addressed when you talk about this subject. But as a whole, the U.S. didn't really take out our frustrations on our Muslim communities here in the U.S. We shouldn't be doing that to Christians that are going to church.
Any group.
and we shouldn't be doing it to Jews. We should really protect people's right, and not just give lip service to protecting people's right. We should really protect people's right to worship, even though, if you ask me, they're talking to themselves, because I don't believe in a God. But you still should be able to, or you still need those protections, because it stops being about the God that they worship and just that group is bad. Is what happens here on Earth. It turns into that group there,
bad.
and it's just a way for tribalism to sneak into.
It's actually really simple. It's the way they describe free speech. It's similar in this regard. It's not that I think all speech should be protected, but that I don't trust anyone to determine which speech should be protected.
That's reasonable.
Same thing is true for religion. It's not that I agree with their religion. It's just I don't want someone to determine which religion is the true religion. So we're gonna step back from that one.
Yeah.
So Noah Poa says, fan of the show, Tim, but Phil, I'm also a fan of the band. How did you two become acquainted? It's actually
I hound him on Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Yeah.
We just follow each other.
Twitter's great.
But you're pretty active, and you put out stuff. I think what makes someone prominent on Twitter is being insightful, having an opinion when something comes out, and people go, "Oh, I didn't realize that." Mm-hmm. And so you've tweeted a bunch of things where I'm like, "Oh, I didn't realize that," And then I end up following you for some reason, and that's why I was saying I know you more for your political posts and your commentary and stuff, more so than the band.
If people know me from Twitter, if people know me and do not have a negative opinion of me from Twitter, it's because of my politics.
Yeah.
If people only know me from Twitter and have a negative opinion of me because of Twitter, well, that's probably because of my politics too. Mm-hmm. So.
John Smith says, Phil, have you seen 5 FDP's new music video?
I have not seen it, but I do know that Loudwire was not impressed that they had the sickle and hammer. So,
snap.
So Five Finger
Break it
Death
down.
Punch. Five Finger Death Punch. The guitar player Zoltan is from Hungary.
Oh yeah,
and
that's right.
He grew up when it was communist Hungary.
Yeah.
He does not have a positive opinion.
No soft spot
about communism.
Interesting.
And I went and I flew out and I filled in for Five Finger for a couple of weeks one time. Ivan had some issues and he had to go home, so I went out and I did 2 weeks of touring with him and sang for him.
2 weeks, huh?
It comes up a lot.
I don't believe it.
It comes up a lot. It happens.
Sorry.
It's okay. But yeah, me and Zoltan hit it off really, really well, and I got to pick his brain a little bit about what it's like living in a communist country, and there are similarities today in the United States with communist countries in cancel culture, right? So the idea that you can go ahead and say this person did this and we should all hate them on social media and get people fired or whatever, that kind of stuff happened in communist countries. It's just that instead of like going on the internet, they called the police, and the police just came and picked you up, and then you were never heard from again. And that kind of stuff actually happened. So to me, the scary thing about cancel culture isn't so much that people are going to say bad things about you on the internet, which can be a huge pain in the butt. I've experienced it myself. But it's the fact that there is that impulse in the United States to say you should not be allowed to say those things, and I want there to be some tangible, real world repercussions because you said something I don't like.
Yep. And then it keeps going.
Yeah.
Well, then you said something I don't like, and then he said something, and then there you go.
And it's scary to think that there's that impulse here in the U.S. among the population, because you guys have said this a bunch of times and you've heard it. Politics is downstream from culture.
Yep.
And if it's okay in our culture to say you're untouchable or whatever, you're a bad person and you shouldn't be allowed to have a job and no one should listen to you and you should be treated badly or whatever, it's a small step to empowering the law to just pick you up for having a bad idea.
Dude, I feel the same way about imagery and words like the N-word, and I hate even saying the N-word. I feel like I should just be able to say the word and we should talk about the word. If you're not
You'll get Papa
name
John.
I know. If you're not name calling someone, just you're able to dissect the concept. Same with the swastika. It's a concept. It's an ancient Indian, religious.
Well,
Post it and talk about it. What's the deal?
We're not grown-ups.
We're not really not.
It's the people who are running these companies are weak, spineless. You know.
Yeah, I do like the fact that there's that, what is it, the Unwoke website where you
Yeah.
can find
Yeah.
people that are not like
Interesting.
that, and there was something else that the guy that runs Coinbase, he came out and said that they're not going to, the long and short of it, I don't know what his statement was, but the long and short of it was people that have the woke ideology, that's not welcome at Coinbase.
Wow.
Interesting.
And we will give you a severance package and let you go if this is unacceptable to you. So
Good
he's
for him.
paying people to leave.
Dang, that's awesome.
Good.
So
Red Bull did something similar.
John Smith says.
yes,
Yeah.
John Smith says, "Have you ever met Gerard Way?
Gerard Way.
He's
Data. Oh,
My Chemical Romance."
yeah.
Oh no, I have not met anyone in My Chemical Romance.
Yeah.
Alex Sears says, "Phil, early ATR is the awesome. This calling gets me hype as hell. Hearing your political beliefs makes me like you even more, my dude. I'll check out your Twitch for sure. What is your Twitch?
Phil that remains
Of course. yeah.
everywhere.
Everywhere.
Phil that
Including
remains.
Twitch.
Super easy to remember.
All right,
Remember.
here's a good one. Draciel says, Tim, Hannity in 14 minutes is premiering an interview with the nodding woman during the Trump town hall.
Yes.
Good.
Oh my
her
god.
out
I
last
loved
night.
her.
I was so
Everyone's
annoyed.
like,
You know the story, though.
People were upset that she was nodding.
I was one of them.
They were like,
You were mad?
Yeah,
I was
like, oh, it's
loving
so
it.
annoying.
I was loving it.
nodding.
I couldn't believe that people were like, they were like so aghast that this undecided voter had was nodding about something
That's
the president
so
said.
funny. My entire Twitter stream was like, nodding
Freaking
woman for
out.
moderator. And I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. She'd be a good moderator.
I was loving it. I was laughing.
Yeah, that was funny.
But there were 3 women behind Trump, and at some point they were all nodding.
blue,
Good.
white,
Yeah, yeah,
blue,
yeah.
red, and black.
Yeah.
Blue, red, and black pills.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The woman with the red mask was nodding the whole time, and she was giving thumbs up.
Nice.
And I was just laughing. I'm like, this lady, like, she's perfectly framed right next
Yeah, I
to Trump
know.
nodding.
That's why I got bothered.
My favorite though is the conspiracy
Propaganda.
theory. There's a conspiracy theory. They think the producers did it on purpose.
They did. Well, maybe.
No.
No
They
one
didn't
was.
know.
Well,
Well, she's apparently a well-known Trump supporter. She's an independent. She ran as an independent, I guess, but she's a fan of Trump. She voted for him or something like that. So
So
maybe
she ran?
She ran as an independent, I guess.
So
and, like,
what for what office?
For Congress, I think.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm not entirely sure. That's why.
Let's
You
see.
know.
did she know she was in frame? I guess we'll find out on Hannity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
You gotta
so.
watch, man. That's
Yeah.
cool.
I just imagine some NBC producer swearing up like just a storm,
Blue
just
streak.
a continuous stream of
Stream of
curses
bad
just
words.
coming out of their mouth.
I love it.
CJ Hansen says, "Hey Phil, the show was amazing in Sioux Falls, and say hi to Wilco for me."
Oh, okay.
Great band. You played with Wilco?
I think he's talking about Will Cow.
Wilco.
Oh, Wilco.
Yeah,
Will
Wilco.
Cow.
Okay.
Andrew Will Cow.
Yeah.
So,
Eric Cecil says, "Tell Benny Johnson, Michael Malice, Andy No, Siraj Hashmi, Michael Tracy, Elijah Schaefer, Ian Miles Chong, Sticks Hexenhammer to check their DMs."
Tell everyone.
I just
You
did.
heard it here first.
You know, everybody, if you're watching, check
I
the
love
DMs.
Michael
DMs.
Malice.
He's
Oh,
great.
I
He's
do
great.
too.
That is a very smart man, and he's hilarious.
He
Sharp.
is
You know what I
really
love?
smart.
I love when he tweets in response to Trump, "We don't deserve him." It's perfect
I love
tweets.
it. It's true.
He's
So
the
good.
best troll.
Yes.
You heard about giving Michael Malice the controls of the Libertarian Twitter account.
No.
Oh my
There was a poll or a what's it called? Getting people to sign it.
Petition?
Petition to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
to get Michael Malice to get him to get the Libertarian Party to allow him to run their Twitter account.
Oh.
And I wish they would, because he would just be nuking everyone. He
That
would
would be
drop
so much fun.
nuclear bombs that were just tasteless and just setting people
love it.
setting people on
Make
fire.
everyone
And
mad.
there is nothing more that I want in the world than Michael Malice to run the Libertarian Party's
Heck yeah.
Twitter account. It would be the greatest.
He's one of the best Twitter accounts.
He's
You
the
gotta-
best.
You, got,
He
you guys
really
got to
is.
follow Michael Malice.
Yeah, follow
Yeah.
Michael Malice. I'm gonna go
the-
talk to him Wednesday, I think.
Do it.
The ambiguous Trump replies are my favorite. It's like, is he saying it's good or is it bad?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
amazing.
Let's see. Mike Hex says, "Phil, have you spoken to Eric July? Also, Tim, you should get him on."
Eric July is great. I talked to him on Twitter and stuff like that. His band Backwards is great.
Oh, cool.
He's great. I'm not sure what you mean about spoken to him, but we chat back and forth, or we'll talk to each other on Twitter and stuff. So.
The other white nerd says, Supreme Leader Tim, what rights do you recognize in the nation of Pulistan? What about the rest of the panel? I will tell you this. Cilantro, fennel, caraway, anise. Gone.
Yes.
Anise?
Gone.
I
yes.
just ordered a bunch of fennel.
You
I
don't
don't
know-
know-
Gosh
I don't
darn
know
it,
what-
Ian.
It was
Licorice.
caraway. I just ordered a bunch of caraway.
Oh, is that okay?
Black licorice.
Terrible.
Yes.
Gone.
Get out of here.
Get out.
I
Yes.
back it.
I just got like a
Fully-
pound of
You
fennel.
are officially vice
Caraway.
chancellor.
I'm in. Cilantro's terrible. Fennel's
Yes.
horrible.
I would add another
Caraway
one.
seeds?
Gone.
Get them out of there.
Nonsense.
A couple of rights I want to see: right to transportation, right to the internet,
Okay, well, hold on.
All right.
But will you have cilantro on that internet?
right to cilantro.
No!
Cannot be taken away. You can stuff cilantro into a tube and
Gosh
then put
darn it.
poop water into the tube, and it will filter it into clean drinking water.
Is that
against
true?
the
More
wall.
cilantro,
Right.
yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah, it's a
not
water
true.
filter.
That can't be
Cilantro
right.
can filter.
Feces out of water, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's the third world.
Look, just because something has a use doesn't mean that all the uses
Are good
are
uses.
good uses.
We
Agreed.
almost were going to
Goes
make
great
you.
with tomato, by the way.
We were also going to make you Secretary of State with
Until
your
that.
free internet and transportation, but that cilantro thing's
Cilantro.
a deal breaker.
I don't know. Can't
It's
do
a
it.
deal breaker.
Can't do it.
What say you, Lydia?
I say no pepper jack.
Whoa!
Oh, snap. I hate pepper jack.
Outlawing cheese
That's
is
right.
unacceptable.
Not all cheese, only pepper jack. all
Only
other
pepper
cheese is
jack.
fantastic, especially Gouda. It's in the name. It's good. Pepper jack, not good. I'm just saying.
What about you, Phil?
Mandatory firearms training.
Oh, yeah. That's actually
Training.
serious. I love
Government granted guns.
No, not government granted guns, but government supplied ammunition.
it. Yes.
There you go.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Whatever gun you want to buy.
So that way you can go ahead and actually not be a schmuck with a gun.
What
Awesome.
about
Get training.
being
Don't
able
be a
to
schmuck
build
with a
our
gun.
own? Is it legal to build your own ammunition right now?
It is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, snap.
You can make your own guns. Yeah.
I was going to
So-
ask that. How many 3D printed guns do you guys think are out there that
No,
are
you
undocumented?
can machine your own guns.
Oh, yeah, you can make your
Yeah,
own.
can't you probably know the legalities better than I do, but
Not
can't-
enough.
Can't
Not
you
enough?
just what's the one? There's like one part of the gun you got to register or something.
The lower receiver. Well, it depends on which gun, but if you're talking about an AR-15,
Yeah.
the lower receiver has to be registered. The lower receiver is the gun. It's the part that's serialized, so it's got a
Yeah.
serial number on it.
Okay.
That's the.
So what's
gun.
a ghost AR?
A ghost AR is so you can get an 80% lower, and what that means is it's a lower receiver that's not 100% completed, right? So there's machining that has to be done. You get a jig, you put it in a drill press or a milling machine, drill out the bottom or drill out the part you got to drill out, and then you can build that. I believe you can build like 3 or 4 guns a year for yourself without having to register them.
Interesting.
There's no paperwork or anything that you have to do. Well, I'm not sure about that. I can't say that 100%. But it is a gun that you build yourself. Would be a ghost gun, something that doesn't have a serial number on it.
What about a pipe shotgun? You ever seen one of those?
Those are illegal, and I don't know
Really?
what you're talking about,
He has
Tim.
no idea what you're talking about, Timothy.
I have no
See it-
clue.
He's never heard of this
I watched some
ever.
YouTube video.
There's guns are because of defense distributed, gun control is a moot point.
Yep, that's
It
right.
is.
Absolutely.
3D
So-
printed guns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it is no longer that you can control guns. There are people in Europe making their own guns, making their own ammunition, putting up videos of themselves doing it on
But
YouTube and stuff.
It's not even 3D printing. It's now consumer at-home machining.
Yep.
I've seen these machines. It's just you just put in the code and then it just
CNC machines.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Computer navigated cutting.
Yep.
That's what they're called.
and it's just you put in the code like a 3D printer. You get them at home and you can put the metal
You
in.
should buy
and-
one of those CNC machines. They're great.
Oh yeah, I knew a dude who used to make rocket parts because he worked for a rocket company.
I love everything about this part of the conversation.
That's a
Yeah.
great conversation. We're like half an
Rockets.
hour over and nobody
Rockets
cares
and,
about rockets.
and
whatever, we're
CNC
chilling.
machining.
Rockets
Wonderful.
and guns.
Yep,
I'm
yep,
into
yep.
it.
Yeah, let's
Well,
do it.
we considering we are over, we'll take a couple more super chats before
Yeah.
we head out. Daniel Woke says the Michael Malice petition was started by the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus.
Mises Caucus.
Mises
Yeah.
Caucus. They are very much against wokeism. Check them out on Facebook.
They're very, very good. Tom Woods is a friend, and he's a good resource when it comes to the Mises Caucus.
Awesome. I'll look him up.
All right, let's see. Joseph Mathis says, I'm presently developing a new left movement that's rooted in realism. Check out anti-Marxist and realist philosopher Manuel de Landa Good book to start with. 1,000 Years of Nonlinear History. Cool. Mr. Deal Folk says, shout out to Ricky Biden not knowing what to do with his hands at town hall last night. There you go.
Oh, Bucko.
That's it.
Hi, kitty.
We gotta go.
Bucko's joined us.
Yeah, Bucko's coming. He's yelling
wants
because
water.
he wants food.
He wants to cause trouble.
So,
really.
so as most of you know, Bucko's a cat.
Yep.
He was named for Jordan Peterson by my friend Emily. And normally he comes up to us around 10 when the show ends, and then yells because he wants food.
there he is.
You get a shot of
But,
Bucko.
Oh, he's chilling.
He's come in here complaining because we were half an hour over, and he's looking for people's water to steal.
Unacceptable.
So he's not
Into
gonna
the
be able to do
water.
it.
He
But
goes.
that being said, okay, Bucko, we're gonna chill. We'll get you some water. We're gonna wrap it up. So, Phil, you want to shout out your channels one more time?
Come check out my stream on Twitch. It's Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. It's twitch.tv/Phil That Remains. And I am Phil That Remains everywhere. Phil That Remains on Instagram, Phil That Remains on Twitter. I have a Minds profile, Phil That Remains, that I very rarely go to. Parlor, Phil That Remains. I just basically, if there's a social media thing out there that I have, it's Phil That Remains.
And
Awesome.
and I hear that you're in a band of some sort. So good luck.
yeah.
Hopefully you guys make it. You know?
I'm hoping to.
I believe in you guys.
Right on. But no, but for real, thanks for hanging out, man. It's been
Thank
fun.
you.
And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Parlor at Timcast. Check out youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/Timcast News for my other channels. I put up content like every hour throughout the day. We'll have clips up from this show tomorrow. We had like a weird moment where like the internet cut out, but we'll get that. We'll get those clips up. And of course, you can follow Ian.
Yo, Ian Crossland. Everywhere on social media at your leisure.
Yes.
Indeed,
And of
yes.
course, you can follow at Sour Patch Lids.
Sour Patch Lids. LYDS.
LYDS. And is today Friday?
Today is Friday.
We just got a skate park built in the basement, so I'm gonna be skating
It's
that tomorrow.
huge.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. We're gonna start filming videos on it, so we're getting ready. COVID really slowed everything up, but we're planning on doing more crazy shenanigans and all that stuff. But we'll be back Monday, and I think our Monday guest is gonna be epic. I'm not gonna say who it is anymore though,
Gosh,
because
all the guests so fun.
But the letters were all capital. EPIC.
Yes.
Epic.
Yep.
we got a
Epic.
really great guest
I
for
heard
Monday.
it.
It's gonna be
Slap
epic.
like.
Yeah, man.
See, we've had like great guests, and I'm like, here's what's coming, and then they cancel because they're like something happened or they missed a flight, and it's like, and then we told so
They're surprised.
just get ready for Monday. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be fun. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all then.
Bye, guys.